Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 260. As summer sun blazes outside, we find ourselves inside the iconic Spiece Fieldhouse, where the excitement of sports is about to take center stage. Within these legendary walls, we'll embark on an exhilarating journey through the heart of Fort Wayne sports community. So let the heat sizzle outside while we bask in the cool ambience of the Spiece Fieldhouse. Get ready for a show filled with passion, sportsmanship, and the unwavering spirit that defines Fort Wayne sports. Welcome to the 260. You, me, us, and them. We are the 260.
Yes, thank you, Sonar. And in honor of Summit City Sports tonight, I see you, Sonar. Let's roll downhill, baby. This is number 20. I'm Joe Walburn. Got the man here they call the mayor of Fort Wayne, Dave Rickert. We got my man, Matt Brumball, riding shotgun as always. And number 20 is a special one tonight for me. And I think a special one for anybody who loves media in the 260. We've got the one and only Jeff Mahoney coming up on the next segment from Summit City Sports, and a man who brought high school sports to your living room, Dave. I liked how you put that tweet out. I thought that really captured, Jeff's contribution to 260 Sports.
I really wanted to have this show because, he changed my life.
You know what? A lot of guys' lives and a lot of kids got recognized, noticed, tape went out, and also a fun fact we're going to be able to talk about with Jeff, too. Jeff helped put together Big Joe Tippmann's tape, and Joe
really?
ended up at Wisconsin, so Jeff's touched a lot of kids' lives. And speaking of Joe Tippmann, he's in a little bit of a camp battle for that center position with the Jets, isn't he, Dave?
Yeah, I've been sort of following the Jets all of a sudden because of him.
I bet you have.
And, what I'm saying, a lot of podcasts up there, they're saying that he is in a fight. And
yes.
They're thinking that he could win this.
I think he will once he learns the calls and all the kind of idiosyncrasies of NFL football. He's just too big and too athletic, and just
to be on the sidelines.
Exactly,
right.
And
you paid him a lot of money.
Yeah, and you see that contract he got. I tell you what, Jeff, we got to go up there, and I'd say Jeff got to get a little scratch of that for putting the tape together for Wisconsin. But I think Joe will. Joe's also extremely intelligent player, and we talk so much about situational football
and lovable. Joe,
lovable.
Those fans up there are really into.
Well, they're just going to love that. They're going to love
his personality.
They're going to love his hair.
The fireman's going to have hair on fire.
Did you see the linemen this past weekend running?
I didn't see it.
Slapping hands with the fans. They all took their shirts off.
Did they?
Those old, big old flapping.
Yeah, they're just I know, just a wiggle with it, right? So that's exciting. Also this week, Big Ten Media Days. And Brummy, I want to get your take. They just burnt down the Northwestern program, with Pat Fitzgerald. Obviously, I wasn't in the locker room. I think that's so sad. Now they've kind of pivoted, and they're going to pick on PJ up at Minnesota. And help me out, Brummy. I think the problem with him is he was giving out coins to try to help behavior. Now, I love silver coins. Jeff and I love those silver Maple Leafs, but help us with that. Now they pivot, and they attack PJ, and it's also my understanding Jim Harbaugh's in big trouble for buying a kid a cheeseburger.
Freaking cheeseburger, man.
So, man, you got to help us out with what is going on in the Big Ten.
Well, first of all, it's the change of culture in just the world.
Yeah.
They want to go after people all the time for being, whether you're, a hard-nosed coach or, the bottom line is, PJ Fleck was given good credit coins, I guess, for guys that were, maybe making mistakes and
that's
instead
right
of
up
running
Joe's
them,
alley.
Yeah, you do different things, and some run them in the ground, and then you get in trouble for running them in the ground.
Well, that's the problem. See, when we all played, it was dawn patrol. I hate it, Sonar. You got there at 4:45 and you ran all the stadium steps. I don't think that you can physically discipline the way you used to. So I think the coins for good behavior, doing stuff in the community.
It's an incentive.
I think that's an incentive. I think that's clever.
Sure it is. And then you, on top of that, then you go with Harbaugh with the buying of the cheeseburger. I've always been
I'm not a fan of Harbaugh, but
the NCAA, some of the rules. And I didn't have to. I was in the NAIA, was a little bit looser with those. Yeah,
no rules.
But come on. I mean, a guy you take a kid out, get him a sandwich, and then you get in trouble for it. Yeah. And then on top of it, I told you right before we went on, then Big Ten Conference serves cheeseburgers today to rub it. I think maybe rub it in Harbaugh's face a little bit. I don't know. I mean, hey, the guy runs he runs a program that's on the up and coming. He's done it now. He's finally overcame at Ohio State, beating them, and then you take a look at him getting into the playoff and then a cheeseburger
and
cheeseburger, and all these kids now are getting the NCAA's all right with the NILs and all.
I was going to say
it doesn't make
these
any
guys
sense.
are riding around. And
No sense.
I was telling
making
Jeff,
millions of dollars.
I saw a lineman today from Ohio State said he wants paid in tractors. And you know what they do? They'll line it up. Ohio State.
I know they will. So you can.
line it
So
up.
they'll pay
That
a
was
tractor.
in Bobby.
That's fantastic,
the movie,
man.
the
Paid the
basketball
tractor.
movie.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah,
Midwest
blue
sonar.
chips.
Blue chips.
Yeah,
That's
blue chips.
fantastic.
Matt, yeah,
It's a
blue
brand new
chips.
tractor.
Oh, it's a tractor.
Yeah,
so
Dad
okay,
wants
so,
a tractor.
so you make a great
Pay
point.
you in cowboy boots.
I know. I'd take it in boots, man. So think about it, Sonar. You have the NIL money. Kids want to get paid in tractors, or I'd get paid in boots, or this or that. And Harbaugh buys a cheeseburger. First of all, I don't even remember all the lunches and dinners I buy for people.
Right.
Now, here you are. The head coach of Michigan, think of all the stuff that he has to be able to mentally work through. He probably didn't even remember. And now they're saying he lied about it. I mean, he said, I didn't remember it, But think about that. Now, I want to know, who is the NCAA enforcement officer on the NCAA's payroll that is like, aha,
I got you.
I got you.
Right.
You put that cheese on that double cheeseburger, and I got you.
I finally got you.
You know what? We've been watching you for years. We're the IRS of the NCAA. And Coach Harbaugh, we finally caught you.
This is so dumb.
And we got one question for you. Was it a single patty or a double patty? And if you lie about that mayonnaise on that burger, that we're not gonna let you coach.
You're right. It's IRS.
You know what? We're not going to let you coach against those 4 cupcakes. What's Michigan play their 4 cupcakes? Well, they play like Northern, Western, Central.
I don't know.
They
They
play cupcakes.
They played Appalachian State a few years back, and they got their ass beat. So I don't know about that.
They were going to let it fly until he supersized it, and then as soon as he did that, it sent it over the edge.
Now I want to talk about Northwestern, Sonar. Keep that mic close because you're up in Evanston working at WCGO and running your company multi-format. How about the Northwestern current players just said, you know what? We're not going to come to Media Day because you know what? We're not going to sit here. The 3 kids that they wanted to be on Media Day, which is a big deal for the programs and the kids just say, you know what? We're not going to come and discuss this. So how about that?
The media
so now
it's not for the players anymore. That's the issue.
And maybe it's not. And maybe that's what it is. It's for sports reporters that want to go around and push all this garbage.
You guys talk about it all the time too. Is the tradition of this area, and what ends up happening is tradition ends up being just lip service. So there isn't really, hey, let's make it about the kids. The media day is supposed to be about, here are the new players, this is what's going on, and they always make it about the college more than they do about the players.
And you know what else? That's a great point. And when Jeff comes on, Jeff played over at Defiance. I'm going to ask him this. I can't think of a more depressing way or a more way to deflate your season than to start with this stuff, man.
It hasn't even started.
They haven't even started, and now a lot of these. And then the problem for Northwestern is you have this portal, this transfer portal. Well, man, if a kid
I'm gone.
If the kid is mad because his food wasn't warm at dinner, he's gone the next day.
Yeah.
What is that going to do? So, Brummy, talk about this with your coaching experience. How do you combat this?
Well,
and then,
Sonar talking about the traditions, and now it's all about the school. Look at Indiana basketball. How many years did they suffer because they went away from Coach Knight?
Yeah, totally.
And then all of a sudden you bring a Knight disciple in, and everything's back on track.
Well,
and it brought the whole family back together.
You're right. And football for Indiana. Remember Kevin Wilson?
Oh,
he's
yeah.
hard nosed. He'd hurt your feelings now,
Yeah.
But remember, they ran him out of there, and they said, now if any coach ever yells at you again, we're going to have an official in the athletic department
that's why
that
they
you can
suck.
go tell that you can go file a complaint I couldn't believe
Well,
that.
let me
man.
tell you
I'll
something.
Tell you what,
let me tell you
man,
something. If I would have went and complained about a coach, my mom would have slapped me in the face.
That's right.
And so and that again,
Can you
I get
imagine?
it. We grew up in different eras. I get
They used
that.
to withhold water. We'd have a
But-
bad drill.
oh,
Jeff will tell you. Remember that,
man.
Brummy? They used to use water as a punishment.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
think you're getting a drink out of that hose after that drill?
Not
I mean, think about the change. I'm not saying that's
I'm
right.
going to go after my college coach, Coach Frame, one of the nicest guys in the world, because on a Saturday we had a practice in the morning, practice in the afternoon, and he decides he's gonna give us donuts and Coca-Cola in between practices. All right,
Let's go, baby.
So morning practice went well, the afternoon not so well. So he takes us over to the hill and he runs us in the ground. Guys are puking
all
up
over the
hill.
place.
Oh yeah, so I'm going to go back now. 35 years and go, hey coach, I got to come after you for that. Come on, really?
It's
part of the
exactly.
It's
That's
frustrating.
That's what also makes you tough. And then PJ up at Minnesota, they're like, well, you know what else he did? The whole cancel culture crowd. He pushed kids to play hurt. Let me tell you something, man. When I went to Cincinnati, I thought halftime was for adjustments, man. I walked in and I was like, whoa, look at that needle. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, man. I mean,
Look at that needle.
That just shows you
That's
these
a big
riders.
needle.
That just shows you these riders, Sonar. They don't know, man. They don't. They never heard that phrase. Son, are you hurt or are you injured?
Did you
know?
guys ever have to work out until the walls sweat?
Oh man, I tell
Do
you,
that? I
man.
mean, that's the thing too.
it's a
Is at
different
least
world.
they weren't beating you with canes anymore. I mean, when you guys did it 30 years back from when you guys did it, they were literally beating people
So
with it.
literally,
It's
they're
just
going
sad.
after Harbaugh for a
Just be
cheeseburger.
stronger, right?
And you got
Smart
Woody
or
Hayes.
strong, right?
Yeah.
Right, Brumby?
Yeah.
They go after him
yeah.
for a cheeseburger, and yet we had Woody Hayes, actually put violence on players,
Yeah.
and he got away with it
And I
until
tell
the
you-
final one.
And Jeff will be able to tell you, you haven't had your face mask snatched until a coach did that when you're standing on the sideline. And you talk about strengthening your neck. You know what I mean? I mean, remember those coaches would grab. Remember, Brummy, they'd get a hold of your face mask and just.
Yeah.
Like I said on a previous show when we was talking about Buzz, there's a
Yeah.
picture in the yearbook,
Yeah.
and Buzz has got this guy, and it's just right down to his face.
Brought him right down to his level.
Yeah, it's just, but to wrap up on that, it's just sad because it takes away so much from college football, in my opinion, and really takes away from the story of Colorado leaving the Pac-10, Brummy, and going back to their. I like it going back to their roots in the Big 12.
Yeah, and in fact, they came out with a statement that we're going to come and take that conference back.
That's
which is
where they
beautiful.
should be.
That's where they should
But
be.
you know what? The Pac-12. I mean, this commissioner. I mean, God, come on. If you
Losing all
can't
your
get
teams.
you can't get a media deal with all the outlets going on today.
You better
he
get
can't
one.
even get on the CW, and the Live Tour was on the CW. I mean, come on now.
You can't get on the CW.
Serious, yeah, I mean, come on now. I mean, hey,
come on, man. Tell them, Sonar.
gotta-
You can't get on the CW.
You can't get on the
there, the Live
CW.
Tour got on the
it's
CW.
serious. Exactly.
Come
but
on, man.
so now, you got all these teams. They're going to be jockeying to get. I mean, come on. I mean, Big Ten's been sitting back now for Oregon and Washington for some time. I mean,
Let me ask you this. Those are great points. Let me ask you this, though. Man, if I'm Oklahoma, or if I'm Texas, man, I know it's more money, but if I'm a coach from a competition standpoint, do I really want to go over to the SEC? I mean, I'm talking football now, jump in the SEC West. I mean,
You're going to get whooped.
I mean,
yes and no. I mean, think about it. I mean, we're going to a 12-game tournament here pretty soon in football.
You think
12,
so?
No, it's 12.
It's
It's
gonna
like in
happen.
2026 or something like that.
Yeah.
But you know what? You're going to get your ass whooped a little bit over there, I'm
man.
sure. But you know what?
I mean-
Texas and Oklahoma, the only guy that's upset right now is Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State because he doesn't
lost
get to
his-
play. He don't get to
lost
play
his
Oklahoma
rivals.
anymore, and that is, you lose some of these rivalries, and to me. I guess it's just a landscape of how things are. I mean, you think about Big Ten,
Sure.
they added Nebraska, they had added Penn State. So at the end of the day, it's going to expand.
Well-
I mean, and Big 12's going to, they're probably going to get, they're talking about getting UConn and Gonzaga for basketball. So, I mean, it's going
Just
to be
super
all
conferences.
over the places. Yeah.
But like Brummy, we lost what we liked was Notre Dame, Michigan
Oh, yeah.
because of this, so
And that,
you're going to
it's-
lose your rivalries.
And to me, I'm a little excited about the fact that Indiana and UCLA are going to be playing basketball, And I'd like to sneak down to Assembly Hall and watch that one because to me that brings me
classic.
back to the old days of, the two premier teams in basketball back in the 70s, and being able to watch that rivalry right there in Assembly Hall would be pretty cool.
Okay, now to wrap up this segment, one last thing I want to talk about is, Dave, let's talk about, since we're having Jeff Mahoney of Summit City Sports on next, I feel like we need to talk about this documentary, The New North. 3 episodes in, I think it's been absolutely brilliant. I mean, I have totally enjoyed it. I love how they have the commentating. This last episode, they had Tim Atkinson from Summit City Sports. I mean, we got to see Jacob Sharon from Wayne, Harold Mack. So it's not just North.
No.
It's kind of highlighting
They're
all of our kids. But I tell you
every
what,
week,
I watched Last Chance U because, I played a year of junior college football, so I kind of was interested in that. I think this New North documentary is just as good as anything I have seen.
I hope we get him on. I
hope they take on. But
I
what
saw
are
you
some
put-
of the?
put out a
I
tweet,
put a
didn't
tweet out for. I'd love to see it. But I think, man, when you get the sideline of the coaching, and I think what also you're seeing behind the scenes is you're seeing the psychology of being able to and Brummy, you know this because you coached so many years, but being able to get those kids motivated or get them ready to play. And I thought it was interesting with episode 3. There was a moment where one of the coaches for North said, man, they just get so hyped and so excited. And then when something goes wrong, it's just like we go in the tank, and then we got to get them built back up.
It's the roller coaster ride.
Man, I think that's been fascinating.
And that's high school sports. I mean, the ups and downs, and I always
highs, lows.
To me, coaching, I always love to put a team together. You know what I mean? Like
as far as what, just kind of like lining up.
You watch them. You evaluate. You put them in their positions. You move around. You tinker guys here and there. And you could go a whole season and have 20 different lineups. And at the end of the day, you're going to find the one that works.
Yeah.
And that's, it's pretty exciting to do that stuff. But it's such peaks and valleys. I mean, from one inning to the next in baseball. I mean, you can see a team and they're just smoking it and having a good time. And the next thing you know, make a couple errors, a couple bad pitches, and now we're back down to the lows of things.
Yep.
That's the psychology of it.
That's what I've most enjoyed about the documentary is the rawness on the sideline. It's one thing to play on the sideline and watch the ebb and flow, but to have to watch, Coach Johnson and Tyree and all these different coaches, the great Larry Davis, have
it would
to
take
really
so much for me in the first episode where the kid on the sidelines snapping back.
Oh yeah,
it takes so much for me that he wouldn't have been done.
I thought Tyree has just been a master psychologist, and what's hard is, and we can talk about this. Football is such an emotional sport because it's like one sport, one play. You can be the most dominant player on the field, and then the next play you can absolutely get your ass handed to you.
Yep.
But I think that's really done a nice job, that documentary, of capturing the emotions, being able to really relate to a kid, being able to coach a kid, the adjustments they're making at halftime. I hope he can come on, but I think the documentary's been absolutely brilliant.
I'd like to have him and Journey Brewer on.
Oh yeah, Journey does. Journey loves the kids so much.
I hope
her photography.
I hope these people watch it.
I hope so too.
They have to watch. They have to see what's behind. Parents today,
yes,
it's not just today. It's all the time.
Yeah.
They don't see the little things. They don't see the, not only that, they don't see the kid who doesn't have a ride home, and you're hauling them home.
Correct. And that's so true.
I had a kid that played for me, Antonio Hurtado, and when I was an assistant coach, he lived with me 3 days a week. I probably violated an IHSAA rule. I definitely probably an NCAA rule because I was giving.
You didn't buy him a cheeseburger, did you?
No, I made it. I made the meal at home.
Yeah.
But you know what I told him? I said, "You're not going to make it unless you stay with me, and you're going to stay with me. And not only are you going to do that, your ass is going to sit there at the table and you're going to study."
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he's playing out at Garden City Community College. One of the best moments of my career as a coach, as an assistant coach.
And isn't that what it's all about?
Yes, but people don't see that part, and that's why I wish they watched this documentary.
My kid's not that bad.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man.
Speaking of kids, what do you think about little Bronny?
Yeah, I tell you what a shame.
Yeah.
Hope he can heal up. But with myocarditis, typically that's the end of the athletic career. And it's just a shame. And you know what? An absolute shame. But you know what? I think LeBron James has a moment here. LeBron James, we could probably argue maybe Michael Jordan's one, LeBron James is two. But if I'm LeBron James at this point, now I use my
clout,
sword and my clout, and I say, now we're going to talk about this vaccination.
Be Ice Cube.
Yeah,
Be like Ice Cube and talk.
Yeah. And
don't bow down.
It's an opportunity, man, to maybe begin to turn the tide on this, and maybe this is going to happen more with other kids, but maybe there's a way to.
It's been happening.
But there's a way now to shine a light on it and say, now look, we're going to hold people accountable, and this has to stop.
But over the weekend, there was a, let's say he's 35, 40-year-old commentator for, I think, NBC at a friendly soccer match, and
he just dropped over.
Just does the whole COVID death jab.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys are in tremendous shape.
Yeah.
And when they have like that heart, those palpitations go from doing something strenuous or something athletic, all of a sudden, man, boom, that myocarditis. So I hope his son's okay.
Yeah.
It's scary.
But like you
I
said,
really hope it's not the end of his career because
but
but I think that if I'm LeBron James, and LeBron James has had a fantastic NBA career, you know what? Maybe this is now time to pivot in a different direction where maybe your voice and what you believe in is bigger than the game of basketball. But I think obviously he probably doesn't want this.
Nope.
But I think now it's time that he has to.
He's got to stand up.
He's got to stand up. So that's my take on that.
And our last thing before we get to Mr. Mahoney, they are really going to town here at Spiece.
Woo! Can you say pickleball, Brummy?
Pickleball, baby. No,
I know.
There's a lot of. I mean, it's for me. It's kind of. When I worked here, I mean, you see that floor,
Sure.
and all of a sudden it's coming up, and you're going, "Wow!" I mean,
I know it's real now, isn't it?
I can remember.
It's really real.
I
It's
mean,
real now.
one of my first assignments was taking care of about 100-team homeschool tournament here, and
I know. And
I looked out there today, and I saw the electrical box is gone, and I know how to put an electrical box in for a scoreboard, man. I was an amateur electrician, man, on the run in an emergency. So
there's a lot of people upset. There's a lot of people upset. You know what I said?
I get it, but you know what?
Business.
It's business, and they're going to town out here. They're taking the floors out,
That's
and
right.
next thing you know, I mean, it's going to be pickleball before you know it.
From last week's show to this week's show,
Yeah,
they
a lot
have
of
went,
progress.
it's gone.
And I think TK, I tell you what, God bless TK. TK's ready to get after it.
Yep.
And that's a businessman.
Yep.
TK's a very, very smart businessman.
You better believe
he
it.
knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing, and you can see.
He's spent a lot of money already.
You can see the momentum and the energy behind this project. And really, and again, for all you guys out there that are frustrated and all the comments on Twitter about pickleball, remember, if you buy yourself a nice racket and you come out, you might just meet a nice girl. I'm telling you. I know you're mad. I know you love your basketball. I'm with you, but you know what?
Singles night at Spiece.
There you go.
Playing pickleball.
That's what I'm talking about. That's a marketing campaign.
Well, Matt,
Singles night at Spiece for pickleball. I love it, man.
Matt had a group here.
Yeah, Fort Wayne Social would come out here and they would play volleyball and they would play futsal out here on the courts. And now they got to switch over. Now they need to switch to pickleball.
There you go.
And then they can have a good time. Hookup City.
Pickleball
Hookup City. That's where
Hookup City. I love it. Singles night for pickleball, and I tell you what.
Have a disco ball.
There you go, guys. And I tell you, as far as our show, remember, you can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube. And remember, it's at the 260. And
Not
what we
zero.
always say, tell them, Dave.
There's no zeros in the fort.
That's right. There's
That's
no
right, baby.
zeros. It's no zeros in the 260. And I tell you what, speaking of the 260, man, the man who brought high school sports to your living room. Yes. Jeff Mahoney of Summit City Sports, the one and only.
My
Dave.
hero.
That's right. Coming up next on.
I get to drink my beer and watch my football.
Yep, on the 260.
And remember, when searching, there are no zeros in the 260. It's the 260 podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m.
It feels like we're taking the crown. It feels like we were born to be champions. We were born to be champions. We were born to have a name in the lights, 'cause we're taking a ride to the top, to the top. Born to be champions. We were born to be champions.
Yes, this is the 260. I'm Joe Walburn. I'm joined by the man they call the mayor of the 260, Dave Rickard. Got Matt Brumball riding shotgun next to me, and I tell you what, it's an honor. This is episode number 20, a special episode for us. And also, if you love media in the 260, a special episode. We're joined by the one and only Jeff Mahoney of Summit City Sports.
I'll tell you what, Joe, I'm feeling that intro music there.
You like that,
That's
man?
all Joe. That's all Joe.
Scratching for you guys.
I
That is
know.
nice.
I tell you what. I want to, after the show, I want you to spend some time with Sonar, because that's that multi-format up in Chicago. I tell you what, if I
Well,
could get
the song's all you.
If I could get I picked the song out, but Sonar and those guys slowed it down. That's the old LL Cool J.
That's what I was about to say.
and
That's 1980s.
And Sonar and Ben, and shouts out to Ben up in Chicago, kind of slowed it down. And we wanted something that was kind of different and jazzy.
We
And
was
then
worried about
put
getting sued.
Yeah, well, that too. That's always a problem. I tend to have to always deal with lawyers every day in my life, but we'll let that go. But yeah, but that and the pictures of the 260, just trying to be iconic, man. And speaking of iconic, man, wow, it's great to have you on, man. Everything that Summit City Sports has done, and tell us a little bit about your background, Jeff. I mean, St. Charles boy, grew up out by Georgetown. Tell us a little bit about your mom and dad and your brother, and just
Georgetown
growing up
Little
a good
League.
Catholic boy.
Yeah, and just real quick, just because you probably thought I didn't know, but going back to Cali, is that where you guys
That's
slowed
what
up
it
right
is.
there?
And you know what? Hey, you know what?
Name that tune.
It fits you tonight, because later on we're going to hear about your Cali experience.
Yeah.
That kind of fits you, but start us off, man. St.
Yeah.
Charles.
St. Charles, a lot of tradition at St. Charles when I was there, and obviously that's continued throughout the times. But, man, I mean, we were looking up to guys like Jason Fabini.
I know. How about that?
You know Jason Fabini.
Oh, yeah.
So, had a great football career. I mean, honestly, St. Vincent's and St. Jude's, they used to tear us up in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But football, we ran the show over there.
That's right.
And
The
also,
Cardinals.
And
Let's
also
go, baby.
in Georgetown Little League.
Yeah, tell us about that. I didn't realize that you had played on that. When I read your bio, you'd never told me that you played on that decorative teams of baseball.
Well, when I was 11 years old, that was major leagues back then.
Sure.
Played with the Mormons.
Oh, yeah.
So Joel and Ben were on my team, and,
Sure.
and Mike Mormon, who used to be the athletic doctor for Snyder football. His son Ryan is a coach for Snyder.
Yeah, great coach.
But we won city my 11-year-old year. I remember I led the team in batting average and RBIs throughout that tournament.
Who'd you
run.
beat?
Thursday's Child from Times Corners.
He didn't even hesitate, man. That's when you. I love it. I see you.
Wow.
I didn't know you had a baseball background, brother.
Oh, yeah. I mean, back then, too, it was a who's who. I mean, you'd go to Georgetown on a Friday night, and I swear there was 1,000, 3,000 people there. Wow. I mean, it would be elbow to elbow
Really,
people.
just for Little League baseball?
Yeah, the Georgetown baseball
Jeff,
games.
2 Friday nights ago was the city championship.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Georgetown won it. And I go in to watch one kid, and I mean, we just done the show about pickleball with Matt and Abby Brandenburger, and they come up and sit right next to me, and they have a whole. I go, "Who you here to see?" "Oh, they're just all the neighbor kids. You know, they don't have any boys, so they're there." And I'm telling you, all their group was, started lining the left field line.
Oh yeah.
So, and they put on
Which is good to see because it hasn't always been like that here lately. So
Georgetown does it. I tell you,
Jeff, you played at the Mecca really at Georgetown.
Yeah.
Georgetown Little League was the Mecca. I mean as a Northcrest kid, that was our main goal was knock off St. Joe and Georgetown.
Yeah.
And, I mean to see
in my year being there this year, leaving St. Joe, I am very impressed with Georgetown.
It's
I
a
really am.
well-run machine over there.
I actually hit a home run over at Northcrest.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, when I was
go.
11.
Well, guess what? You hit more than I did when I played Little League because I didn't hit one. I was the one on the mound trying to prevent him
Matt,
not to do that.
When Georgetown had to go to Northcrest, that's like, man,
What's
I feel
this?
sorry for these kids.
Yeah, what's this?
It was okay.
It was okay.
It was always fun to travel.
Joe,
We had our Pepsi
we didn't have
scoreboard. We
too
were
much.
happy.
We didn't have too much.
I remember we'd go to Cherubusco, and they had those bags, the first base, second base, third base, and instead of it, going over at 90 degree, it would ramp up.
Oh, really?
Steal a base, you'd slide right over that sucker. Turtle Town, baby.
Yeah.
See, it was
That's a tough place to play.
It was a
Little
little
League.
different
They
over
take their
at-
shit seriously.
It was a little different over at Foster Park. All I discovered tacos in a bag, man. I wasn't much of a baseball player, but man, when they chopped up those Doritos and put a little ground
They're
beef
still
on
selling
that,
those, Joe.
That's still the
man,
best.
that was-
That's still
wasn't
the
that
best.
that's not the best summer treat when you were a
Heck,
kid?
we were serving it down here at this concession stand there at Spiece back in the basketball
You
tournament.
know what's good.
Can't beat 'em.
So baseball at Georgetown, St. Charles, and then you went on and played for one of the most legendary high school football programs in Bishop. Played with some great names like Brian Bobay.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what it was like, man, to suit up and all the traditions, man, to play at one of the meccas of schools in the 260.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, to earn your spot over there at Dwenger, especially when you don't come from a lineage of players. If your last name's Pelkington or some of these other big
Or
names.
Tittman.
Or
Now Tittman, but
yeah,
it used
back
to be
then,
Pelk.
Tittman didn't really have
Oh
the
no,
name.
what was the name back then?
Pelkington.
The Pelkingtons.
Pelkington, really? That was kind of
Corettas.
name when you played. Yeah, the Corettas.
Well, in
Because you're talking mid '90s, right?
Kevin was pretty much the only credit that played.
Really?
Oh, really?
BJ
BJ didn't play. He was basketball, wasn't he?
He was one of the best basketball players I've ever seen. He was
Yeah.
one of those point guards that could totally control the tempo of a game.
Yeah.
He was the best ball handler in the city.
Wow.
And Bishop Dwenger that year finished 8th at state. That was a single tournament
Yeah.
and lost to Kevin Alt in Warsaw.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
Alt would step over the half-court line and drain threes. It's like,
Wow,
what's
he couldn't-
going
what
on
can you do?
here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And when you talk about Dwenger, talk about the great Fred Tone. Obviously, Andy Johns was the coach, and Andy Johns was a great coach. But tell us some of those legendary Fred Tone stories.
he was the ultimate motivator, but also
He loved
could.
Dwenger.
Oh, he loved Dwenger. Well,
Loved it.
and he wrestled till the day he died.
Really?
I mean, he'd get in there 40, 50 years old and be wrestling with the guys. Jason, his son Jason,
Went on
told
to the
me
Air Force,
he
didn't he?
played at Air Force.
Correct.
I actually got to see him play at Notre Dame when he was at Air Force.
Wow.
We had tickets behind the Air Force bench, and Tommy Lasorda sat next to us.
Tommy
That's
Lasorda.
great. That's nice.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
he was five seats down. So me and Sam Steele went. Jason and Mickey Steele were good buddies.
Yeah, Mickey
Jason
Steele was a
Tone.
baller
And
too,
actually,
man.
Jason was my coach. I see all the Wildcat stuff. He was
Yeah.
my coach at Lane
Oh, wow.
Wildcat.
Wow, really?
In my first year.
By the
at-
way, if you ever get a chance, if you haven't, go watch our episode on Wildcat.
No,
Yeah,
I gotta
Mr.
do
Mac.
it.
Mr.
We had
Mac.
Dean Dorfler on. It was
Unbelievable.
great show.
Dean's a great guy. We just saw him at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I know you did. You guys did a nice broadcast over there,
It
man.
was a long one.
Whew, about
was
5
real-
hours.
5 hours,
Man,
yeah.
that topped our 8-man football last year.
Oh man, no, that
Tell
was longer.
them all about 8-man football.
Man.
Tell them I got nicknamed the Bee Killer.
Yeah, 8-man football.
Tell 'em that day.
We were in the middle of a cornfield doing that. That was a good time, Joe.
It was no field goal post. I showed up and I'm like, Jeff, I don't think this is it. No, this is it, Joe. I said, there's no field goal. There was no field goal post, and Jeff's like, bro, they don't kick field goals or extra points in 8-man football. It was like something out of the movie. What's the baseball movie where they have the
Field of Dreams?
It kind of felt like that for
did.
football, man. It was just kind of like in the middle of nowhere, cornfields, this and that. And we sat in a press box that I wasn't 100% sure when I sat down in the chair that the press box was going to be able to hold me. It was, wasn't it, Jeff? And then we had a bee's nest in there that we participated.
There was probably about 300 dead flies by the time we were out of there. So
I
that was a tough one.
whacked 300 bees, man.
But that was a good time. What an experience, huh, Joe?
What a great time. And you know what? I mean, now it's got Black Hawk Christian.
Yeah.
You know, Jeff said, we got to go down here and do this. I said, you sure? Yeah, we got to go do it, man, because we wanted to create the energy for Black Hawk's program and get it
They're
going.
going 11 man.
But, man, what was it like Friday night, man, to play for Dwayne? You guys always took the buses over to Zollner. So what was that little bus ride, man, over to Zollner to play those home games?
100%. Kind of like you when you were at Southside playing at Wayne. Every game was an away
Every
game
game
at
was a
Dwayne.
road game.
And we talked about the traditions a lot when we had Coach Garrett on, last year. But you buckle up your helmet, and that helmet doesn't come off.
And you guys
until
would
you
snap
win.
it.
No talk.
Is that the tradition that you guys would snap it on the bus? Wow.
We would snap it before we left the bus to get on the
Wow.
field.
So you would just hear snap, 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 snap,
all
snap.
that good
Wow,
stuff.
man. You imagine that, Dave?
Yeah,
That's when you know you're about to go into battle.
Yeah.
I've seen that little documentary, if you want to say, they did on Dwenger.
Yeah.
And they had Tone on there, and they talk about the tree.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you,
Spirit tree.
It gives
Spirit
you
tree.
that thing that gives you chills.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because you literally hear these helmets just boom, boom, boom.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
No talking.
going back to Dwenger, my sophomore year was Coach Zalman's first year of coaching.
Wow. So
He-
you got ties
he-
with Chad.
Oh yeah, he wasn't
Wow.
even thinking about coaching. My buddy Troy Woods was in his math class. Said you got to come out and coach. So I was a scout team middle backer. Running back was Brian Bobe, went about 240, 6'1", 240
What are
fastest.
you at this point?
Oh my God! Well, I was about 180 pounds.
About buck
Okay.
90. And remember,
Buck 90,
Bobe
buck
went on
80.
and played for IU.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big
well,
Ten player.
And then the fullback was Tim Titman.
Oh, jeez.
Tim Titman, who went on to play at Valparaiso. So, yeah, I mean, that was tough because
Wow.
Coach Zalman would tell you how to play middle linebacker. He said, all right, listen, when they got the ISO coming up the middle, you got to take that fullback on full steam. Well, if you beat that block, now you got Bobe.
Bobe.
Anybody that played against Brian Bobe knows that guy ran angry.
Yeah, he
I
did.
mean, holy cow. Brian's a great guy, though.
He's a great guy, and Zolman really cut his teeth as a defensive coach over there, didn't he?
Yeah, 'cause
Because
he was a D
a lot of
coordinator
people-
next year.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that about Chad. What a great defensive coach he was. Yeah, yeah.
Great hire by Homestead. Homestead.
Oh, yeah.
Homestead took the two coaches from Bishop Dwenger when I was there
Basketball and football.
Chris Johnson
Yep.
was
Yep.
the basketball
Yeah,
coach
that's a
that
good
led
call.
the team with B.J. Creda and Andy Helmer and Joe Richardson, all those guys, Brett Couch. Took that team to the Elite Eight. That was the best team Dwenger's ever had. One of the
Right.
best teams in the SAC. I'd argue top 10.
Now, to finish up with Dwenger, what was the most memorable game you played in? Was there one game that just really
Harding.
stuck? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Harding game my senior year. I don't know if you ever played at Harding during your football career over at Southside, but it's just kind of a nostalgic feel.
yeah.
It's like the lights didn't necessarily brighten
because half the lights were
They're
broken
dimmed
out. You know what I mean? Half the lights were broken out.
But
I'll be honest, I thought the field was a dump. We used to play over there. But you're right. It kind of had like a nostalgia feel because it was just kind of something different from everywhere else.
Yeah.
And Harding had players.
Yes.
Harding didn't win all their games, but I'm telling
Yes.
you, we'd ride the buses over there and they're like, gonna have a good night tonight with Harding. I'm like, oh man, this is not gonna be easy.
Yeah, and we had a rich history on that field because at St. Charles we'd play a no weight limit game, 7th grade and 8th grade against Village Woods.
Oh, so so that's why exactly.
And
so
we
that's why
always
it was
played at
special.
Harding.
So you guys always played at Harding.
Always played at
wow,
Harding.
no wonder. So there you go, Dave.
Yeah.
That's why it was special.
And then my senior year, I had one of my best games against Harding, and Coach Zalman put me on a blitz right through the A gap, and they handed handed it off to Ivory Bryant.
Ivory Bryant was tough, too. Ivory Bryant was about 210, 215,
He
wasn't
was
he?
a big boy.
Big boy.
He could run you over, run around you. He went
Sure.
to Northern Illinois to play for the
I know he
Huskies.
did. Yeah, he was tough, man.
And anyways, called me on a blitz, went right through the line, boom, and all I could hear was, ooh, in the crowd. So that was probably one of my most favorite plays, just playing football, all throughout my career.
So did you even play baseball at Dwenger?
Played my first 2 years, and then just concentrated on football, as they'd like to say.
That was
And
under
then-
Windmiller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you finished up football at Dwenger, and then on to Defiance, right?
Yeah, Defiance College.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys will be happy to know, my freshman year at Defiance, I ended up, I think, second on the team in tackles. I was always able to just sniff the ball.
Is that from just learning the discipline? Because when we used to do games, we would do the games, Dave, and I could break down every aspect of the game. But boy, he could tell you about the backers. Is that the success you had at Defiance? Was just learning from Coach Zolman, the ability to read those guards and the ability to fill those holes and make those tackles?
Definitely reading your keys.
Yeah.
So you don't focus on one specific person. You start with the offensive lineman to the quarterback and to the running back, and it's kind of a blur. But that first step from that guard or that offensive lineman is pretty much going to tell you what they're going to do. Do
Sure.
they step back and they're going in pass
pro, or they
or
stepping
do they
forward?
step forward, which direction? Obviously, there's always crackbacks and things like that, and knowing what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, I was with St. Francis football team for 10 years.
I know you were.
And it always just floored me when kids didn't know their assignment. Like, I just took it
Oh, that's
for
the
granted.
biggest thing.
But
Lining
that-
up, biggest thing.
That
I always tell
Dwenger
Dave.
mentality.
Well, the biggest thing in football people don't realize, and that is the Dwenger mentality. See, Dwenger would never line up wrong,
No.
and everybody knew their assignment.
Because he's been doing it since St. Charles.
Right.
That's
Since
it.
St.
But,
Vincent.
but if you watch a
That's
good,
why
if
the
you
Dwenger mentality.
yes, if you watch a big high school game, there'll be a play where guys don't get lined up or miss an assignment, and he's absolutely right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so going back to Defiance, though, so my freshman year, Lance Larimore was a senior running back at Defiance.
Oh, Lance was tough. See, Lance played for Lures. Lance played on the 1992 Bishop Lure State Championship
team.
game. Lance was a baller.
So you guys would be happy to know that arguably two of the best players on that team, Landon Fox, who's the head coach at Valpo right now, he was also on that team, a great outside linebacker, but we did well at Defiance. The Fort Wayne boys, we were only two Fort Wayne kids.
260.
We were the only two Fort Wayne kids on the roster, and we both did pretty well.
Do you know the coach now? At
I
Defiance?
do not. I just
He's
know.
the Snyder kid.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember I told you about this, Joe.
Yeah, David mentioned him to me.
Met him in a gas
David
station.
met him in the gas station, and he had ties back to Snyder. So, and I think Defiance continues to dip into 260 for kids. I mean, it's a great spot for Defiance to be in.
And he actually still lives in Fort Wayne. And he makes a drive. It's on the east side. It's about a 25, 30-minute
Yeah,
trip.
it's not too bad.
And so he still lives here, and he's really. When I talked to him, Joe, he was trying to, get some Fort Wayne kids.
Oh, absolutely! I would be living in here with what we've seen on
Because
Friday
Jeff
Night
just said
Lights.
there was only two. When he
Back
was
then,
there.
it was just me and Lance.
Yeah.
Why
That
would
was-
you not be recruiting Nick?
Because you know what, and correct
Well,
me if
we
I'm
didn't
wrong,
have
Jeff.
the name back
I don't
then.
think the 260 had the name,
Yeah.
and we just weren't as recognized. And see, back in the late '90s, Indiana football was way behind Ohio football, Dave.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
It wasn't even
Right
close.
there.
Yeah.
But again, and people are going to hate me for this again. Again, when you did away with the single tournament
Class.
in basketball,
Yeah.
all of a sudden football picked up steam and.
Took off.
I would say we've made up so much ground in the last 10 years. Indiana football has made up.
Yep.
We're never going to be Ohio football, but we've made up tremendous ground. So now it's like if you're at Defiance, maybe in the late 90s, you're coming over and you're taking a Lance Larimore or a Jeff Mahoney. You're picking out a few of the gyms in the 260. Now you can kind of come over here
'Cause if
and
I
you can
remember
kind of
right-
get a grab bag and grab a bunch of kids
he
over
wanted
here.
to have eight.
Oh yeah,
Fort Wayne kids.
8 to 10. If I'm
Now it makes
Defiance,
sense why he
if
only
I'm
wants 8, he
Defiance,
wants-
A
yes, a year. I want 8 to 10 a year if I'm Defiance. But man, I tell you what, Jeff, when you were playing football in high school and you went in Defiance, did you think about the media? Did you kind of have the
kidding
mind
me?
in the back of your mind as far as, man, I'm playing ball, but I'm kind of like getting interested in this media? Did you have any idea as far as like what
No.
you were going to, chase and pursue in your background, or Was that something that, when did that kind of begin to catch on with you? Was that when you were playing football, or was it after?
No, I never thought about being in the media, but I ate that stuff up. Casey O'Boyle was doing the Prep Sports Weekly.
Casey, shouts out.
And it came out every Thursday.
Yes.
And, man, I would run home because the News
was the
Sentinel
best.
was an afternoon paper.
Yeah.
So it'd get delivered like around 3 or 4. I'd run home and just study it. Ever since I was little, I'd take that Sunday Journal-Gazette paper because they would post all the Major League Baseball stats.
And you were on it,
And
huh?
I would just study all the top batting
So
averages.
you kind of think that's what kind of planted the seed a little bit?
Yeah, and just a love for the game, and just kind of following your dreams, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, as far as following your dreams, you get done at Defiance. You head out to California, don't you?
Yeah, I went out to Cali.
What was that decision like, and what were you chasing when you went out to California?
Don't say a girl.
No, just honestly, I think like so many kids at that time, at that age, I hadn't a clue.
Yeah.
I'd come home to Fort Wayne in the summer, work as a laborer over at Schenkel Construction.
Sure.
I actually worked on the remodeling of the cathedral downtown.
Wow, did you?
But just had no idea what I wanted to do. And I went out to Redondo Beach, California for my cousin's wedding.
Beautiful place, by the way.
And my uncle invited me to come out there and stay with them for a bit and see where it goes. And rest is kind of history.
Then you interned at Fox Sports.
I did. I interned for
How'd you get that gig?
I was working at a restaurant in Hermosa Beach called Club Sushi.
Club Sushi.
We were one of the top restaurants in all of California.
Yeah.
I mean, I was walking out of there with $300 cash in my pocket
Back
every
then.
night.
Woo, man, you were rolling, man. Wow.
Nice day.
Yeah, high roller.
Wow.
See, that's one thing most people may not know, but I worked in the service industry for over 12 years.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, so I was working at Club Sushi, and one of the guys that would come in like every Tuesday, he'd come in at happy hour, get that half-price sushi roll. He would make promo videos for Fox Sports Net West.
Really?
So he hooked me up with a guy at Fox Sports Net, and my first job there was creating highlights for the whole country.
Let's go.
No kidding.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
so,
Country.
Yeah, regional Fox Sports would then take. So, like, if Washington was playing Detroit, you might cut a Washington highlight, focusing on Jerry Stackhouse and those guys.
Yeah.
And then you would cut a Detroit highlight,
Wow.
kind of specific. So you would just sit there at a TV, watch it, and log the game. And then. Now, in Los Angeles, everything's unionized.
Uh-huh.
So, as a production assistant, you didn't touch the editing software.
Really?
So I would just go down there with my notes and say, here's the time code, 23427.
Timestamp it, yeah.
Boom. They'd go get it, clip it out, and back then it was tape to tape.
Wow.
So
Yeah, we're going way back.
Right,
Sonny.
yeah.
These are the good old days, baby.
Fox Sports Net to KABC to Fox Sports Net West, which was based out of the Staples Center.
Let's go.
Nice.
Man,
So you saw a lot.
Yeah, I was out there. I was in the Spurs locker room after they knocked off the Lakers.
Were
So
you
Lakers were going for 4 straight championships.
Yeah.
You're talking Shaq.
Yeah,
Kobe.
Shaq and Kobe, and it's when Gary Payton the next year showed up, and those guys. The guy from the Jazz, Karl Malone.
Carl Malone, big
yeah.
Carl Malone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I was in the locker room with Manu Ginobili and Parker.
What was Shaq
and,
like? Is he lovable like they say he is? Or was he-
You gotta understand. I only saw him like in the hallways, going from like your car
Was he
to the
cordial to
locker
you?
room. He always had an entourage around him. Kobe was the coolest guy by far.
Really, Kobe was, huh?
Just he was the type of person that even though I was just a production assistant, had a credential to go anywhere in Staples, but I never had a seat. I used to sit with Michelle Tafoya at games. She was a
Titular
sideline.
Michelle, from ABC.
She was so awesome.
Let's go.
But Kobe actually one time pulled me aside and was like, hey, what's your role here? Like, what do you do? And I
Really,
always
Kobe asked you that?
I always thought Kobe was so cool. Like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah, that's a great story.
And Shaq, he was always nice. My job was to stand in front of his locker after a game to make sure our camera guy would have a spot once he came back to the locker.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Because
Wow.
once Shaq went back to the locker,
You got up and closed.
boom, 40,
Wow.
40 people were on it. So,
Nice.
but it was also rough because. Yeah, I really liked Kobe, and that's when the whole Colorado stuff was going on.
Oh, yeah.
And Kobe had this stigma about him because he was considered a guy that like wouldn't go with the rest of the crowd.
Yeah.
And people got to remember Kobe was 19 when
He
he
was so
joined.
young.
He was so young, so everybody
On a
would
mission.
go. They'd all go, exactly. They'd all go out to the clubs. Rick Fox.
Yeah,
and,
what's he gonna do?
and,
He's
you
on a
know,
mission to win.
He'd go back and wake up at 5 in the morning and train. So,
Wow.
but
Wow, just a machine.
yeah, so it's a good time.
Man, so California, and then on to Naperville. Was that the next step?
Well, I was out in Springfield, Missouri, working for the News Leader for 2 years, just doing tons of stories. But after that, Naperville, where I was going to go work at Comcast Sports.
Very expensive, Naperville.
In the city, it is.
That's when it was just booming. That's when Naperville really grew up, kind of late 90s, early 2000s. Wouldn't you agree, Jeff?
Well, and from what they told me, it's the most amount of high school kids in an 8-mile square radius is Naperville.
Really, in Naperville?
Yeah, because
Interesting.
Neuqua Valley was about 4,400 students, and you had Naperville North, Naperville Central, Waubonsie, and then they created Mattia Valley, but all of those schools like 3,800 kids.
Wow.
Joe, that's where Ryan, my oldest, did his junior year in baseball at Benedictine.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That school, they don't hide their money.
No.
Benedictine's out in Lyle.
I thought
Yeah,
that,
wow.
Yeah,
you
just
gotta
east of
drive through Naperville
Yeah, it's just east of
Wow,
Naperville.
is it?
because he talks about
Really
Ferris,
close to Bennett Academy.
Ferris Bueller's day off house is still there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the woods.
Now Naperville, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're gonna begin now to get into like the birth of Summit City sports. A lot of us thought that Summit City sports was kind of birthed here in the
Before you go-
260, but it was
before you
kind
go
of
there,
started
Joe.
in Naperville.
Yeah, so is what you started in Naperville still going?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Naperville.
talk about that.
do you
Naperville's
sell that or?
No, I created it for a TV station.
Okay.
I moved to Naperville, and like I said, I was going to work in Chicago.
Yeah.
But I saw they had this little community television station, and I'm driving around Naperville, and I'm just seeing state championships galore outside of these high schools. Sean Payton, who was the coach of the Saints.
Yeah, now the Broncos.
He went to Naperville Central.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that Boys of the Fall video that they did,
yeah.
that was at Benedetti Worley Stadium. I
Was
was
it really?
actually there when they filmed that.
That's
because
great.
they did
the ties, man.
Yeah, they did the annual Naperville North versus Central game would be played at Benedetti Worley, which is the home of North Central College, which
Fascinating.
just won their second national championship last year in football.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, but so created Naperville Sports Weekly the first year, and it was rough because heading into the very, very first show, we had 2 highlights under our belt. Went and did a tennis match and went and did a soccer match.
So no, wait a minute. Your first show going in, all you had was 2 highlights?
We had 2 highlights going into Friday. Then the Weather Channel says, "Oh, big storm's coming in. We're gonna have to cancel all the football games."
Oh no!
And I was like, "Are you serious?" And you know what? It didn't even rain.
Let's go! Come on.
So
Man.
they're playing football games at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and there's a couple at like 2. So it was a rough day. It was me and one other guy because everybody else kind of called off. Well, I could work on Friday, but I can't work on Saturday. It's like, thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So I think I got 2 hours of sleep that night, and we got the first episode off.
And it's still going.
Yeah, it's
That's
still.
awesome.
Oh, it's
So
still.
that
going
was the
strong.
start of that first episode, huh?
Yeah.
That's wow. Think about that, man. Think about
Tennis
that,
match
man.
and what else?
Unbelievable, man.
So it was soccer.
Soccer
'cause
match.
Soccer's really
Cancellation
really
on
good there.
Friday night, and look what it leads to.
No rain.
I'm telling you, somebody was trying me, man, because I was up at 4 a.m. on Saturday just to kind of get ready, and I remember I went to a tennis match at like 9. I hadn't planned on doing it. It's like I got to get some kind of content to put on this show, and just got it done.
Did you enjoy kind of the rawness of those days? I mean, the days where you're just hustling, man. I mean, we talked about, Mr. Mac on the Wildcat show, but that was kind of Wildcat in the media back then. Did you kind of enjoy the rawness of it and just the ability to get out there and capture a highlight?
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. I mean when I was in Los Angeles,
That's for my brother. He just said, tell the guy soccer sucks.
Well, I've met a lot of great soccer players, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate anybody that's willing to put themselves out there on the stage.
Sure.
You know, was it Eisenhower that said the man in the arena, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
That we had talked
Absolutely,
about.
the
But
man in the arena.
whether it's show choir or theater or whatever, I mean, I just love people that put themselves out there. Because, you know, when you put yourself in the spotlight, you can get all the cheers, but you can also get the ridicule and the jeers that go with it.
Yeah.
But, that's what it was. It was. When I was in Los Angeles, I was in the farm system for Fox Sports. You know, start off as a PA and eventually get your own show.
Just like anything, you got to work your way up.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what,
and
man.
I got so tired of all the just negative talk because Kobe would just get blasted back then.
Really?
That I said, you know, I'm going to go another route because, you know, I was also doing things like I covered Deshaun Jackson's signing at Long Beach Poly.
Wow.
You know, you want to talk about
Big time.
You want to talk about a wall. Long Beach Poly had a wall this size right over here that was full of NFL alumni.
Wow.
You know, Willie McGinnis went to Long Beach Poly, went to USC.
Yeah.
So
Played for the Patriots, yeah.
I really, you know, when you stand in front of the locker with Shaq, you're one of 40, 50 guys. I liked being the only guy that had the video.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
that's kind of where the Summit City Sports thing came. And
There you go, man.
well, or the Naperville Sports Weekly, because
Yeah.
I was trained up after Los Angeles on one-man band journalism.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to instill here in Fort Wayne now. I know I told you in Fort Wayne, we started off with, I put together a couple shows that would be like 30-minute type Sports Center shows. But then live streaming became a thing. And we just, you know, we went from 300 streams to now over 700.
Yes.
And
There you go.
I would send a guy out here, go cover golf and go cover cross country. Then the next year I'm like, man, we just picked up a few more schools, so I got to pull you to broadcasting full time. Oh, we just picked up tech. Oh, we're going to do St. Francis.
Yeah.
So
It's exciting, man. I tell you what.
Yeah.
Okay. From the 260 to L.A. to Naperville, now you're going to come home to the 260 with the ideas of Summit City Sports. So we're going to take a quick break. And on the other side, it's on, baby. It's 260 with Summit City Sports. It is on, and dare I say it, .com.
That's
for my
right.
man Tim Atkinson. But coming up next, man, you leave Naperville, you come on down
He
to the
smokes more
fort.
than I do.
That's right. Well, you know what? I feel like every time Tim does a game, I love you, Tim, but I feel like every time Tim does a game, he says SummitCitySports.com. I feel like a Marlboro, like I feel like an advertisement of a pack of cigarettes. Sonar should like pop up in the corner, but nah. But coming up next,
There's your
man.
moneymaker right there.
That's right, man. But coming up next, Naperville, then to the 260. That's right. Jeff Mahoney comes home, and he comes home and brings your high school sports. So
to your living room.
that's right, to your living room. Up next, high school sports in the living room of the 260 with Jeff Mahoney, and this is the 260.
At 7 p.m., just search the 260, also available anywhere you find your podcasts. And remember, when searching, there are no zeros in the 260. It's the 260 podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m.
It feels like we're taking the crown. It feels like we were born to be champions. We were born to be champions. We were born to have a name in the lights, 'cause we're taking a ride to the top, to the top. Born to be champions. We were born to be champions.
It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m., highlighting all Indiana sports, featuring guests from the 260 area code and beyond. Live on YouTube every Thursday at 7 p.m. Just search the 260, also available anywhere you find your podcasts. And remember, when searching, there are no zeros in the 260. It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m.
Yes, this is the 260, and yes, this also is SummitCitySports.com, baby. I'm Joe Walburn. We got
You got
my
that
man.
down pat, buddy.
I love. Shouts out to Tim Atkinson.
For sure.
Hey, man, shouts out to Hunter Solsenheimer.
Yeah.
Shouts out to all the great guys.
We had
Steve
Hunter on.
Orth.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
Hunter on, man, and Hunter just couldn't say enough good things about you,
Yeah,
Jeff.
and Hunter's going to be doing
260.
volleyball this year.
I saw that
Yeah.
today. That's exciting. Hunter just has so much going on.
Yeah.
That's one of Brumby's favorites,
That's
man.
my guy, man.
Tell him about your guy a little bit.
Hey, you love seeing a guy who, the story behind, him and not being able
Yes,
to play
taken away
sports.
from him.
Just the attitude and
Tremendous.
the dedication to sports in general that he brings out is unbelievable.
Perseverance
And,
that he
and,
has.
that's what when you put your mind to do something and you do it well, the other end
You
is
can see that he has a
he's got
plan.
it. Yeah.
He does have a plan.
Absolutely.
He does have a
Absolutely.
plan, and Jeff really kind of mentored him and
really?
got him going. But I tell you what, Jeff, started from the bottom. Now we're here. Here we are. First broadcast in the 260 with Summit City Sports. What was it like the first time you went out and got highlights or did a broadcast? How did it all start here in the 260, and what year was that?
Well, actually, it was 2010, and we were very first game I think we got was Lures at Snyder, and that's when Kenny Mullen was on the team over at Lures.
Sure.
Jalen Smith, and I come back to Fort Wayne. Lures is beating Snyder.
What happened?
Yeah, they had a few
Opening
guys.
week.
They had a few guys.
What's going on here? So,
Yeah, just a few.
Coach Lindsay had it dialed in over
Yeah.
at Lures for sure. But, it was good. I mean, came back, and Tim had always kind of been jealous of me because I'd come back to Fort Wayne, during the holidays and stuff and be like, yeah, I just interviewed Shaq. Yeah, I was in the media room with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and all these guys, and he'd be like, "Oh man, that'd be so cool."
Just so everybody knows, he said that him and Tim go back to when you guys were kids.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
were
you
first
and
grade
Tim,
at St.
you,
Charles.
Tim Atkinson and Pat Reith, right? You guys
Well,
went way back, don't
Yeah,
you?
met Pat in high school.
Oh, high school, Pat. Okay, I know
Yeah.
you
You
and
and
Tim.
Tim were first graders.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they came up together.
Well, and
So I
what
bet he was a little jealous.
a lot of people don't probably know is Tim was a star baseball player
I
in the
know he
city of
was.
Fort Wayne.
Yeah, he was. He was a big.
Yeah,
deal
he
in
was a
baseball.
little legend over there at St. Joe.
Yeah.
So you know how it is that the two best players, coaches, or their dads became coaches.
Yeah.
And then they had the first pick in the draft.
Right, yeah.
And then they picked Tim's, and then the three best players on the same team,
Yep.
beating everybody by 14 runs.
That's Morrison's MO right there.
Yeah.
He knows
That's
to
how you
do
do
his
it.
But yeah,
Did Tim start with you from the beginning with Summit City? Did he kind of
he
share
helped.
that idea?
Yeah, he helped.
Yeah.
I remember one of the first games because we would just go out and film the games.
I know
back
you would,
then,
yeah,
and then
back
we'd
then.
cut together highlights.
And then you would cut it up, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I remember Tim did like a 4 overtime game. It was Harding at Northside. And I would talk with Coach Haydock about this because Zach was the quarterback on that Harding team. But, we would cut highlights, and we were doing everything. We were doing wrestling, and we were doing hockey, and just trying to get as much stuff as we possibly could. But it was tough because it was 2-3 of us. Tim's got a full-time job. He's got
Sure.
a young family. We brought in his brother Jake. But then things kind of died down a little bit when I got going full-time at St. Francis.
Yeah. And how did that, being able to be full-time with St. Francis, how did that help or hurt, or did that push it more for Summit City Sports for you?
Oh, it hurt at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I went to live streaming at St. Francis before anybody, at least in the NAIA, was live streaming.
Wow.
And we'd be on livestream.com because you couldn't go live on YouTube at the time.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I moved back to Fort Wayne. You know, my mom had cancer for 8 years, and my dad got sick, and it was like, kind of felt like it was time to come back. And I knew I always wanted to come back to Fort Wayne, but I wanted to bring something back.
Sure.
And
You brought it back.
the videography skills and stuff like that was what I was able to bring. But yeah, Coach Donnelly is the one that hired me first and kind of got me coming back to Fort Wayne.
Think of your ties, though, man. I mean, you just said some beautiful things about Kobe. You know, you had some interaction a little bit with Shaq. You know, you kind of around the guys. You saw that stuff. Now you come back, and Donnelly's what, the third winningest college coach of all time? I mean, think about some of the paths, man, that you've come across.
I think Coach D is number 5
Is he five?
all-time
Okay, all-time.
winningest.
Okay.
But he's number 1 in NAIA.
Okay, thank you. I know he's up in the top 5.
And Coach D was, straight up like a dad. I mean, you could talk to Coach D about anything. He's a player's coach. I mean,
He was
he's
Matt's neighbor.
Yeah, he and I still get to chat with him. I love going to the games because my son-in-law played for him at St. Francis, which was really cool. I got to go back to the games because of that. So yeah, Coach D is he's a great guy.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Bernard Pollard had a lot of nice things to say, about Coach D from his time at Southside.
Yeah.
Pat Donnelly was an assistant
Yes.
coach under
Yes.
Matt
Yes.
Land at the time, but yeah, so Coach D, he sees things.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you don't become one of the all-time winningest
Right.
coaches for nothing. And I always looked at it. I'm like, why is he so successful? Every single year was the exact same. The meeting, after the kids got back for the spring season was the exact same time.
Yeah.
Everything was Cougar time, Coach D time, which was 15 minutes early. But he's just so consistent. And, like I said, he was a player's coach.
Yeah.
So he knew how to kind of motivate you and get the most out of you. So great guy. And honestly, I'll never forget one of the first games I did, because I was a video coordinator and did all the videography and all this stuff, really just kind of like a media person, but almost specifically for football at the time. But when I first got there, we would video practice, and then you would put the DV tape in, and you would record it to 12 VHS tapes.
Oh, my gosh.
And then you would hand it off to all the coaches.
Coaches.
Wow.
So our first game, we travel up to Iowa Wesleyan, and I'm talking to the guy at Wesleyan. Now, granted, this is a 0-10 team. We beat them like 77-0. But I'm talking to their video guys like, oh yeah, we got this thing called Huddle. We just upload it to Huddle. It puts it on the cloud. All the kids can get on from their computers in their dorm rooms. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm going back and I'm copying over all these VHS.
They might suck at
tapes.
football, but their media guys
So
pretty smart.
that's how you discovered Huddle?
That's how I discovered Huddle. The next August, Coach D takes me to the MSFA football coaches. I don't even know if it was August. It might have been like July. It was in Bourbonnais, Illinois, home of Olivet Nazarene. That's a training ground for the Bears.
Yep.
And I remember Coach Feminist was in there, and Coach D brought his film guy, so Coach Feminist had to bring his film guy. And I just told those guys, I was like, listen, unless you want to spend a ton of money on hardware every single year, getting these beefed up computers, just go to Huddle. So the whole conference switched over to Huddle. And
So
then
that was you. So you brought the idea to the conference of Huddle.
within, I think, a year, the whole NAIA switched over.
I see you, Jeff. Let's go. Hey, man. I'm going to interrupt you. We got a question out there from 260 Jake, a.k.a. our man Jake Smith. He's
Jake
in
the
the
Snake.
chat. Jake the Snake. He says, once you get to the Summit City era, Jeff, what was your favorite all-time football game to call for Summit City sports? So I know we're hitting St. Francis a little bit, but let's jump ahead a little bit, because Man, you've called so many games. What was your favorite game that you ever called? That's a great question, man.
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind was Snyder at Northside, Talamontes with the game-winning field goal.
Yeah, that was a great one. I was there for that.
Unbelievable.
That was a
You
fantastic.
and Big Joe both said the Dwenger was a Dwenger Wayne game.
Yeah, the Dwenger Wayne game
And
we
sectionals.
did. Yep. The sectional championship game. I'd probably say Dwenger and Wayne was probably my favorite, but that Northside and Snyder game was the top 5 because that was and what that was special about that, if you remember, Jeff, the year before with COVID, we went out and did games, and Jeff was like, and I was kind of like, man, this sucks, man. There's no band, there's no nothing, man. Why are we doing this? And Jeff kind of pulled me aside. He said, look, these people can't come out and watch their kids play. Of all the years, Joe, this is
the most important year.
Exactly. Jeff says, Joe, this is the most important year to call game. It kind of sobered me up to like really what was going on. So there would be a guy doing like on the PA, the teams, and I swear it was just Jeff and I. It was like we were in a closet, and we did games that year, and we did everything we could to put the energy into it. And I kind of realized how serious and how important the games were for Summit City. But then, Dave, that next year, that first game, and I'm going to ask you this too. I'm pissed off they did away with the Snyder Northside regular season game this year. We can talk about that later. That'll probably get me in a little bit of trouble, but I'm always in trouble.
It should always be the first game of the year.
It should always be the first game. It is the biggest rivalry north of Indianapolis. And last year, that was the number one.
In the last 4 years?
Yeah, that was the number one most watched regular season game last year. 30,000 for Northside and Dwenger. These coaches get together and do away with that game. I mean, of all the games, I understand they were changing the schedule, Brummy, but you must protect the North Snyder game. But back to that game he mentions, that was the next year, Jeff, wasn't it, where the fans were back, the band was back, you could smell hot dogs. I never thought I would miss the band that much like we did in the COVID year. Everything was back.
Well,
that
Northside's
night.
got a great band.
Got a great band. Everything was back, and that was the kickoff. And it felt like, of all the years we did football, that opening night that year, it felt like, okay, yeah, we're going to be all right. Football's back. And then Tyler Mentes, what was that, a 47-yard field goal? I mean, and Dave, in the first half, they tried to kick a field goal, and it was
Jeff's right. It was 48.
Okay, the first half, they tried to kick a field goal at the end of the half, screwed the whole thing up. Northside got it, ran it back for a touchdown. And we were thinking, remember that? Tay. And we were thinking, what is Snyder doing? I mean, Snyder really wasn't trying to push the ball. And we're like, oh, man, you're going to put it on Tyler Mentes to kick a 48-yard field goal?
Well, they brought the other kicker in the first time around.
Oh, that's what it was, yeah. So Tyler Mentes got the second opportunity. Jeff's right. Jeff's got a great memory. But, boy, that was a great call by Jeff. But when he hit it, man, Dave, you could hear the thud up in the press box. And it was good. So that's a great call for a game. And thanks, Jake, for the question, man. That's Jake Smith. He's done a lot of games on Summit City Sports. Shouts out to Jake Smith.
Well, he does a lot for the Columbia City community.
Oh, man, yeah. He's a great guy.
His middle school teams, his 7th grade squad is top notch.
Yeah, last year his middle school team, 7th grade, gave up 1 touchdown. And it was on a reverse. I mean, it was the most dominant 7th grade team in the history of the county conference.
Like we always say, it's the Northeast 8 is the conference now.
I'm telling you,
and
man.
you see the Columbia City, again, we talk about it all the time. Carroll and their feeder program. Now we're talking about Columbia City.
Know, exactly.
Just the whole community.
City.
The whole community out there.
I heard this, I think this actually today. Dwenger's going back down. Is that correct?
To 4A?
I don't know
Maybe
that that's
next year,
100%. I know Lures probably next year will be going back up to 3A.
It's all about enrollment.
I don't know that Dwenger is 100%.
I was told they was, and I go, well, what happens to the sectional? They have to boot Columbia City. So where would they go?
I don't know this for certain.
Would they go to East?
I guess Columbia City would have to move to their sectional, but I would not be surprised in a few more years if Columbia City does not jump up to 5A.
I mean, you just look at everybody that's moving in there, and you see the factories, out there in Whitley County.
Mass migration from Homestead to Columbia City.
Yes, absolutely.
And a lot of kids, unfortunately, are leaving the Homestead program right now to go play at the Whitley.
I will say this: me and Charlotte played golf down in Warren Sunday. We came back 24, and she took me a tour of the Homestead campus. That's nuts.
It's massive.
I mean, what they're adding on, and they're going to tear down the middle school, she said.
Yeah. I just got one qualm about that, though. The backstop, man. Why can't we do like Kendallville does and put the mesh up? You know, I'm making a campaign for Fort Wayne Community Schools to just buy a bunch of poles and get a bunch of mesh and do all their baseball stadiums the right way.
All right, Jeff. Now here.
There you go. He's talking your language, Brummy. Come on, Brummy.
When I was at Northrop, we went and we put netting in. Okay. And the dumbasses.
I saw that
Fort Wayne
netting.
Community Schools double overlapped it. So you can't. It's like a spider web.
So you can't.
Why would they double overlap?
Because they didn't listen to what I told them to do.
Well, but the poles.
I had it all
Keyword
set up.
Joey said dumbasses.
I said I had it all set up. I had it flipped the right way. I had everything marked for them. Nope, they went spider web.
Go out to Huntington North, see what they did.
See what they did.
No,
okay.
it's East Noble. You're right, East Noble, man. That ballpark is
and
beautiful.
their municipal fields have it too.
Yeah.
So deep ties with Coach D at St. Francis.
Oh, yeah.
All the national championships you guys won
Back
over
to back.
there. Back to back. How did the football platform on Friday night just begin to flourish and take off, man?
I feel like it's always been there, Joe.
I'm talking about what you did, though. I'm talking about just coming out with the different crews. Yeah, we'd go out and do radio, man. I mean, it was radio. You know what? Don't get me wrong. I love radio. You know that, Sonar. I mean, that's in my blood, man. But yeah, radio. I tell you, man. I mean, that's coming from a guy whose stepfather, was the first to broadcast in FM stereo. So I love radio. But it felt like when you took it to the platform and you had to visualize the games, the replay, that's when it just felt like, I just felt like 260 football kind of took off with that. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, right, what Joe's saying is, you said it in the beginning, you guys were doing going out and video.
Highlights.
And when did you come up with the concept, we're going live?
Honestly, because we went live for Biggie was a sophomore. I think Chandler White was a junior. It was a huge contest.
Right.
So back then, you could have this little box. It was called a live stream box. And you just plug the internet into it, and you could actually get a broadcast out live. But you wouldn't have a scoreboard and all that stuff. But I think it was that fall, maybe the following fall, when I'm live stream at St. Francis. Then Huntington University had a broadcast on YouTube.
So is that where you saw? You were like, really? That was the moment you
Here
were
it
like,
is.
whoa.
Yeah. So then, because I had Wirecast at the time, so I'm like, okay, we can put some little cheesy scoreboard up, and we can do this, because now instead of relying on this little box, we've got a MacBook. We can have a jetpack and actually make this thing happen.
Just go.
But then I want to say it was 2015. We go down to Westfield, Snyder versus Westfield, Hopper and Johnson and all those guys
great
on
team.
Snyder. Oh my gosh, there was a huge storm right before the game. The field goal posts were bent over. I thought they were going to snap. But when I was there, IHSA was broadcasting the game too. They're like, hey, check out this software production truck by Blue Frame Technology. So we adopted it right away. And literally, I think it was when IHSATV.org first got started, it was like us and maybe 2 or 3 other groups along with the IHSA.
Right. Yeah. Man, the history of it, huh?
Yeah, and that was in 2016. And then, obviously, Homestead, Adam Schenkel always had a great radio program.
Sure.
And he was just waiting until they could really perfect it. Now you see what they're doing with multiple cameras. And now
And you helped with that, didn't you?
That's
absolutely.
That's gotta make you feel good.
That was something that, you know what? That was something that I think people need to know that about you. It would have been real easy to have been like, hey, man, you know what? Nice kids, but hey, man, I'm here to make some money. I got my deal going. Yeah. You took the time to help the kids and helped out with that.
Yeah, I mean, Adam had his thing going
Sure he
on
did.
for sure. But, I was always happy to answer any questions.
Sure.
And definitely with Dan over at Carroll, I mean, there's
Yeah.
times when I've run him equipment.
Yeah.
He's had to borrow a set when they want to do 4 mats
Sure.
for wrestling. And Dan works his tail off, man, to get that thing going. He
He's a
sells
great
sponsorship.
AD.
Yep.
He really is. He's a gem in Fort Wayne. So, yeah. So, and I think it's great. It's kind of whittled itself down to where, Fort Wayne Community Schools has kind of been our bread and butter here for the last couple of years.
Yeah, talk
Dwanger's
about
done
that. Do you kind of feel like you're kind of because they've kind of
You
seemed
had
like
the Northeast 8 too. I mean, I watched a lot of Leo games.
the East Allen County schools.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously we're in the ACAC too.
So when you say whittle it down, you mean just as far as just not being able to cover some of the Homestead and Carroll and some of the
Yeah, like this year we won't be going to Carroll.
Okay.
You know, they kind of want all eyeballs on them, and I get that from a sponsorship standpoint. And
Sure.
plus, it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking, unless we can routinely get out to Heritage and cover those games, like, why should we be a second broadcast at Carroll when we can be the only broadcast at
Exactly,
Heritage?
and that's the way we look at it, and that's why we were talking too. We think, man, you could really butter your bread
Northeast.
out at the Northeast Conference.
ACC.
Because, you know, remember, Jeff, we did the Columbia City Norwell game. I mean, Dave, it was first of all the county
That game.
the county ball is fantastic. But you go out and do a county game. I mean, talk about Leo, Norwell,
Did you guys do the
Columbia City.
Leo East Noble game last year?
Oh, yeah.
Jake, we did the Leo East Noble
the
playoff game,
sectionals.
and Jake Smith did a lot of those county games. And I'm telling you, man, I think you could really do really well.
Oh, yeah.
Focusing
That's where you
maybe on the county
concentrate.
ball, because what's happening is in the city, I think a lot of the venues,
It's not good football.
well, and you're kind of being shut off from different venues,
Yeah.
you know. And he's right. He wants to cover a lot of the great games, but I think ultimately it almost feels like you're going to get pushed out in the county a little bit. You know what though?
It's better
That might
football.
not be a bad
No,
thing.
the atmosphere alone.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is fantastic.
It's crazy
Go to a Woodland
good.
game, it's packed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Leo
Well,
game packed.
Those
I'm-
county games, bro.
I'm trying my hardest to get a program started at the Anthus Career Center, and
really?
what's good about that is it'll allow kids from all the schools to come in, but ultimately, really trying to work with Fort Wayne Community Schools to
Do you
get.
think they'll support that with the Anthus Center?
Yeah,
I think so,
I
too.
think
That's a
so.
great-
but
That's,
be a great
that's the
program.
best route to go.
you
for
know,
sure.
it's a process. I
Sure,
mean, remember
sure.
last year I had to start coaching before I even got cleared over at Northwood. Remember?
Yeah, he was coaching. He had them all
Hey,
dialed.
that a boy.
He had them
I
all
like
dialed
it. I
in.
like hearing that stuff.
And, well,
did,
it
man.
wasn't my
Love it.
fault. I went over there. This is 2 days before we play Shawnee. They're like, get out here and coach our defense. We haven't even had a defensive practice yet. I'm like, oh no.
Worked out pretty good, man. Had a good season.
How did that come about?
Northwood?
Yeah.
Had a foster child living with us at the time, was a
helping
Northwood student, and I said, hey, why don't you go out for football? And the football coach had just gotten off surgery, and they just needed help.
Yeah.
And I said, well,
Did
you
a
know,
good job
I,
over
pla-
there.
I played a little bit of football.
Just a little bit, man. I bet you were barking, man. I bet.
I-
Let me guess. You focusing the backers a little bit.
Well, no, I was focusing on getting those guys to line up in straight lines for calisthenics. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
Dwayne. I'm telling you,
That's a
you had
true
to put
thing.
a a saint, a Dwayne
Think
saint
about
over
this.
there and get
Think
that
about
cleaned
this.
up.
He's at Northwood coaching, not very good players probably, and he's looking across the street of Washington Center thinking, wow, this is what it's come to.
No, I loved it, man. I loved it, and that's why I can't wait to hopefully get into teaching those kids.
Are you going back?
I'm sorry.
Are you going back this year?
Oh, I
about
wish.
Anthus? Yeah.
I wish there was enough time for everything, but there's not.
What going forward, man? What do you envision for Summit City sports? And you've had so much success, so much tradition, and again, I just want to blow your horn a little bit. I know you won't do it. I'm telling you, Dave. What was beautiful about Summit City was we'd all go out and do football and get hyped up. I see you. Sheepdogs, all that stuff. But Summit City was there doing girls volleyball.
Yeah.
Summit City's there doing all the basketball, all the different
Baseball.
things, man. So I just want to congratulate you on that because
I
the
want to thank you
platform.
because, like I said,
Oh, the
every Friday
platform.
night, me and my wife were sitting in the garage.
Yeah, the platform has done
drinking
so
a beer,
much.
Yeah.
The
watching
platform
games.
has done so much for kids. Now, where are you going with it? What you doing? What do you? You've always been kind of a builder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is it now maybe a little more of the teaching mode, or where are you going with everything with Summit City?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately that's the direction.
Yeah.
Starting off with Fort Wayne Community Schools, kind of hopefully build the program, the structure within Fort Wayne Community Schools, but then also East Allen County Schools. So
think so.
I've talked with Marilyn Hissong, the superintendent out there, and
Good lady.
yeah, absolutely. Just hoping to, just keep on providing the exposure and, hopefully, maybe a Summit City sports show like you talked about so many years where not only could we honor the athletes, but also honor the videographers and the storytellers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, but ultimately, like, you can't control everybody.
You know that, don't
we? God,
we know that, don't we?
God's always put me, he's always made things happen. You know what I'm saying? So I've always kind of been told, like, if you follow your gifts, like God has put gifts in you. Yeah. If you follow those gifts, like he'll open doors and whatnot. So that's all you can really do is try hard and do it for the right reasons, right? And ultimately, it's, the professional sports landscape kind of rubbed me the wrong way when I was going through all that stuff with Kobe. But then the amateur level was just such a great thing.
Joy.
And with so much negativity out there, to be able to put positivity on Twitter and on Facebook for these younger kids, because when I was a young kid, I looked up to Jason Fabini.
Absolutely.
I mean, I followed Dwanger to state in '91, and
Ditto.
Ewell Wilson and Ditto, and all those guys. So those were the guys that I looked up to. And you better believe the young kids at Metro, they all looked up to the older guys at Metro, or the young kids in the CYO or the FWCS. And I don't know if you guys know this, but back in the day, Fort Wayne Community Schools didn't get those Metro players until they were in the 8th grade, because they would play Metro until they were done with the 7th grade. And that was good
what Willie and those guys did, having the Metro play in the summer.
Yeah, I
think that's
that.
fantastic.
And it gets the kids more football, more reps.
Well, exactly. And don't you think, as far as football in the 260, man, have we really pulled it together?
I think
and
so.
that's why I've been so passionate about defending the youth tackle football. But I just think the football, Jeff, and you've seen it because you've done so many games. The football, man, has come so far with what we've seen. And there's nothing like a Friday night, man, when you can flip on Summit City Sports, Dave.
Well,
and say, man, who are they covering? What's going on?
That's my question. Do you have a list already put together for all the weeks?
Yeah, tentatively. I mean, football's pretty easy when we know what schools we're going to be at. So I think I've actually got the whole regular season mapped out.
Put that out on Twitter. I want to see who you got.
No, I mean, it's really pretty simple. I mean, this year we're really trying to get Heritage, every single game of Heritage. I mean, Coach Kolkman's done an outstanding job there.
So you're really going to cover Heritage that much, huh?
That's the plan. I
Wow.
mean, you got to remember.
What about Leo?
Oh, 100%.
Good.
I mean, we've covered every single Leo home game minus maybe one the last 3 years, Joe?
Sure.
3 or 4. I mean, of course, at Leo, you're setting up in
counties.
the stands.
Yeah, they
but
really.
sometimes that's kind of nice, too. You got some extra room.
Yeah, sometimes you never know where you're going to set up, but you're right. You focused on a lot of county ball, and I think that's kind of where you're going, where you're going to have to go with it.
Adams Central too far for you?
Well, Adams Central's got their own thing going on.
They do.
Yeah,
now.
they got a group that does every single
that
week
shows
out
the power
there.
of that program.
Yep.
Oh yeah, no, Coach Mosier, holy
that's
moly.
a program, man.
Well, we talked to them. They got like 80 kids in their like middle school. Like they're feeders.
80 kids at Adams Central in the football program.
Well, we talked with Coach Minnick. Remember last year?
And they told us. What they told us was when Belmont won the football state championship, I think maybe like in 06, 07, don't quote me on those years.
Early 2000s.
The guys that played on that Belmont team, Brummy, have a youth football program in Decatur. And that's where all the Adams Central kids were coming up from. And then Jeff's right. The Coach Mosier came on, and they just have a tremendous middle school into high school. So you've got that tackle youth football feeder coming out of the Decatur area into that middle school, into high school, and everybody sits back and is like, how come a small school like Adams Central be so dominant every year? And actually tell them, Jeff, it's a machine. It's a machine, isn't it, Jeff?
Well, their traditions liken to Bishop Dwenger or Snyder. I mean, that started with Coach Minnick, back in the 70s.
Yes.
But also to remember about Heritage is, open enrollment in Fort Wayne. Like, you might be in Northrop's district, but you can go to Snyder.
Sure.
Well, same thing in the East Allen County schools, and Heritage is East Allen County schools.
Yep.
So the kids that used to go to Harding
They're going to Heritage.
mostly go to New Haven, but can go to Heritage.
Interesting.
or Woodland.
That's interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
you remember Deontay, who was doing some videos for me last year?
Yeah, tall guy, good-looking kid.
His kids go to Heritage.
Wow, there you go, man. So, now tell us, back to the football Friday night, man. You fire the mic up. Do you still get those feelings of that same excitement, man, when you get ready to, when Friday night comes, man, and let's say it's Snyder and North, man, first regular season game, man, does it still all come back, those feelings, that excitement, the youth in you with the football?
Yeah, so, I know everybody's different, but playing in high school, playing in college, I would be sick to my stomach the night before a game.
Yeah.
Like, I'd almost just, not want it to happen because I would just – but then opening kickoff, nobody's more fired up, really in the calisthenics line. It's the exact same now as it was when I was 11 years old at the baseball diamond.
Wow.
When I was 11 years old, I would get there 2 hours before the game started. I'd help the guy chalk the base path. I just wanted to be around it,
Just wanted to be around it.
When I was 10, 11 years old, I used to be the PA announcer for all the games.
Really?
And
There you go, man. That's
where
where it all started, brother.
Even back then,
Back to Little League.
we were probably the first ones to have walk-up music because remember Too Legit to Quit?
That's fantastic.
I'd put the tape in the tape player, and then I'd take my mic for the PA and then put it over by the tape player.
That's where it all started.
That's
man.
old school.
That's where it all started.
So it's the same,
Just like Roosevelt Barnes, all starts in Little League.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it's funny. More guys come on here in different sports, Jeff, and we kind of explore all the different journeys. And I'm taken aback by how much Little League just
They
really
still
meant.
They
Really,
miss.
tell them, Brumby. I mean, Little League meant so much to these guys. And
Roosevelt
these are
made his whole
Roosevelt
team.
Barnes. I mean, I never thought of Roosevelt Barnes swinging a bat. When he came on, I thought we were going to talk Purdue basketball and Detroit Lion football, but it was
He was all about the baseball. Yeah, again, we've said it. These guys. Well, hell, all of his pictures were Little League pictures.
Yeah, they were not football.
They were all Little League pictures back when he played at Sacred Heart.
He made his name in this town off Little League
Yep.
baseball.
Yep.
What's been nice about Summit City Sports too, Jeff, something else you should really feel good about. There were so many times when I'd do a broadcast with you afterwards, I'd hear from a grandma or I'd hear from a kid, hey, man, my grandma and grandpa, man, they just love it, man. They're down in Sarasota. They turn the game on every Friday night. I mean, what you did, man, was you allowed so many people that couldn't be there, to be able to watch their kids play or their grandbabies play or enjoy that,
Right.
man. And that was something that just meant so much to people and has really brought a lot of joy. When we kind of did the games last year, we went out and did that Norwell Columbia City game, and my gosh, man, there's so many people that had somebody playing that were out of state or couldn't be there and watch the game, man. So I think that's something else really to be proud of.
Jeff, when you first started doing this, how much hate did you get from the ADs?
Oh, yeah, that was the big thing, right? Taken away from the gate.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me
Yeah,
started.
so, but and that's how I started it too, was
Don't get me
meeting with the ADs, establishing those relationships. So ultimately, the positivity and just the recognition that it brought to the area kind of won out in that argument, because I always argued to them, out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
That's right.
Like, you can actually get more people in the stands the more we publicize it.
Yes.
You helped them.
I mean, that's
probably
how else am I going to look at it, right?
You gotta be careful. I'll say it for you. A lot of those ADs were lazy, okay? And you know
I
what?
brought it up was because Matt was still at Northrop, and when this started happening, he goes, Dave, because he worked at Captain Cork, he goes, man, they're putting it up in the bars.
Yeah.
It was
no,
huge.
I mean the 07 was showing all-time
absolutely.
lures. I mean, you know, all the games.
And
No,
you know
it's a
what?
smart move. I mean, you know,
Embrace it.
but it, you know, again, you know, I know the ADs were not happy. I mean,
They
I
weren't happy.
was in on, you know, I would hear them, and you know, the bottom line is you work hand in hand, and it
That's
benefits
right.
both people. And the
scratch your back,
and the
you
biggest
scratch
thing
mine.
is it's
Yes.
benefiting the kids.
Yes,
That's
At the end of the
point.
day, it's
Number
benefiting
one.
the
Number
kids,
one.
and that's the number one most important thing.
And what he's doing with his games and his broadcasts,
Highlight.
like Ben Johnson over at Northside, they're running back, taking those cuts
Yep.
and those highlights, and they're getting them out.
Yeah.
And that's how, I'm telling you what, and they'll be like, whatever, Joe. I'm telling you, that has helped recruiting
Yes.
for our kids in this area because
Yep.
we have instant highlights. We got tape going out like last year, Dave, the Wayne and Northrop game. Tell them what happened with that. Jeff and I are overdoing. We were doing. I think maybe we were doing Carroll and Northside that night.
Yeah, it was Carroll, Northside.
But over at Northrop and Wayne, TimAtkinson.com shouts out. He's doing Wayne and Northrop, and there was a highlight, wasn't it, Jeff?
Oh yeah,
And tell him.
Lamarion Nelson hurdles a guy. I mean,
Yeah.
number one, the
Went to
play.
ESPN.
Yeah, the play almost never happened there. It looked like the quarterback was down, Christian Trimble.
Incredible
but
play.
honestly, I went frame by frame so many times. He got that pass off.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't down. Then for Lamarion to make the catch, then hurdle a guy, and then drag a guy into the end zone. We were probably in the second quarter. ESPN's direct messaging me, "Hey, do we have permission? Use it."
Yes, you
He
can.
showed me this phone. We're doing the game, and I'm like, I'm breaking down, man. I'm breaking down the schemes and all that, and we're doing the game. He just like showed me his phone. I'm like, what? yeah, that's cool. But
Well,
show me.
that was your favorite game because you and Antoine were talking about quarterbacks the whole time.
Ooh, yeah, Jeff had to slap us a couple times because we get going. But no, man, I think, before we get to the rapid fire round, congratulations, man. You know what?
Very.
Everybody in the 260 is proud of you. And Tim Atkinson,
That's why I wanted this
Hunter Sosenheimer, Stevie Orth, Jake Smith, Pat Reith, Eddie Nolan's boy, Thomas Nolan. I mean,
Just had a baby.
just had a baby. I mean, congratulations, man. And you know what?
Can't forget about Thad.
Oh, Thad's fantastic. I'm probably going to forget somebody.
Ryan
but
Dellinger, who's in
Ryan
Coldwater now.
Dellinger has put the work in. All the guys that have contributed over the years. And I think it's just something that, again, we talk so much, Dave, about how we start things in the 260.
That's what I've been thinking this whole week about that. We're inventors in this town.
We're
We're number
doers.
ones on a lot of things.
Yep.
He's one of. He's
Oh,
in
absolutely.
That group.
It's a tremendous achievement and a tremendous effort. And the reason I love Summit City Sports so much in the platform, my God, you couldn't do more for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and to me, that's what Summit City Sports is all about, brother.
And you talk about, where are we going, where are we trying to be.
Sure.
The year that we covered cross country, Carroll boys and girls won state, and I think it was Concordia girls won state. 3 of the 4 state champions came from Fort Wayne. What other sport could you say that about?
Right.
And you were there.
And then Strzelecki, the girl from
Yeah,
Dwenger,
Dwenger.
won
She was
individual
incredible.
cross country. That was the only year that we had, from beginning to end, cross country coverage.
Yeah.
I think I just went to her wedding.
Yeah.
And then we covered golf. I want to say it was that same year.
Now tell me, I got to ask you.
And
golf.
then Homestead wins their
Who's-
first ever state championship in girls golf.
Who did the color, the play-by-play for golf?
Who did it?
Yeah. I mean, was there somebody commenting?
Oh, well, there'd be highlights.
Oh,
But
okay.
at the time,
I just wanted to be like, could you imagine me being
Jim
out there?
Nance.
Like,
No.
Joe. I see you.
somebody get him a muzzle.
Joe, I see you. That's a great putt. Look how he lines that up. Oh, you get a 3 wood off a.
You know you wouldn't
300
be able to contain yourself.
Oh man, it's an honor. And
But
we're gonna.
that would be
Yeah,
the goal,
yeah.
is to just be able to follow all these sports. And not only that, look what the Canes did. The Midwest Canes took 3rd at nationals.
Yeah.
Purnell was one of your guys, right? Whitsett.
Yeah,
But don't you
Purnell
think?
He's
Don't you think?
third
The,
baseman?
Yeah.
don't you think though? The more you
And the 2
cover,
Snyder boys.
don't
Yeah.
you think the
Oh,
more
Logan
you,
and
Fry.
Fry.
don't you think the more you cover though for kids, and the more you get out there, the more it strengthens our community?
I'd hope so, man. In today's world, like, sports is pure. at that level.
One of the maybe one of the few things left in society that's pure.
Really is, man. I mean, it doesn't even feel like church is that pure anymore. But a ball game.
And he's Catholic.
I know.
Yeah,
that
I'm
could be a
Catholic.
T-shirt, and I'll be careful now. But that's
I might make that T-shirt for you.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe we'll
And
get the bishop to sign it for you.
that's why it hurts so bad when you hear about Indiana High School All-Star Game had to be called because of this,
man, what a
that,
shame,
and the other. It's like,
and we all sponsored it, and we wanted it to be just like a crowning moment.
and
man.
I heard you guys were talking about the New North and the show.
Yeah, you know what? Thanks for bringing it up. Obviously, you have a trained professional eye with all your success. What are your thoughts about that?
That's very good.
I think so too.
Yeah, Aaron Lang is the guy that you
Yeah.
need to get on the show, and Dre
Okay.
Muhammad's had a big hand in making that happen.
Yeah, we'd
And-
love to have
I
him
mean,
on
it's
and
coming
talk
from a
about
guy
it.
who worked for Fox. I mean,
That's why I
the
respect
kid,
his
He's
opinion,
done a
yeah.
great job.
Yeah, but what you guys were talking about with the kids beating themselves up, that's where kind of the sports psychology, which I think is going to become a
Getting bigger.
bigger and bigger role. I've done a lot of work with Kelsey Herber, who's the head coach for Huntington women's volleyball, and she's exactly right. I mean, when you mentally beat yourself up, you're taking away from your own game, and those are different things that you can train yourself not to do.
Interesting.
And
I
there's just
tell a
so
lot
many
of
great
kids
lessons.
to read a book called Mind Gym, MINDGYM,
Mind Gym, huh?
and it was really written for, say, a golfer.
Yeah.
But my oldest son shit down his pants at Notre Dame. I'm just livid, waiting for him to get out in the parking lot, and this is a travel ball, and I go, what's the coach saying? I'm just hoping he got ripped. He goes, I got to go to the bookstore and buy a book, Mind Gym.
Wow,
And
that's coaching.
I mean, it's a little book like that, but it's all about throwing a domino out. Once it starts going, you got to get that domino and throw it out.
That's and it's so key with
you,
life.
And you have so many personalities too.
Yeah.
I mean, a team of a baseball team. You got 20 kids on that team. They're all going to be different. You can't pigeonhole kids and teach them the same way. And same thing with the psychology things. Some guys you can get in their ass a little bit. Some guys you're going to have to pat on the back and calm them down.
And you being a baseball coach, I was going to ask you, because last year it was intense, man. We're playing Madonna, right? You had back-to-back double headers.
Big
This is
rival.
for Indiana Tech.
Big rival.
Yeah.
And we're playing game number 3. We're up 12-3. And they put a 10 spot up on us. 10 runs in the top of the 8th.
Yeah.
Talk about those innings. Like, what is going on? Because I've been involved in those innings.
I'm going to
Can't get those outs.
I'm going to give you a story from the past, as usual. We're playing DeKalb, 2016, actually, the year we won the sectional championship. We're playing regular season game up at DeKalb. They're up 9 runs with 2 outs, bottom of the 6th. And all they have to do is get another run. They 10 run us. And I'm in the dugout.
Get the other run.
I'm like, I hope the hell they get this run and we can get the hell out of here, get on the bus, and go home. All right? We put 14 runs up at the top of the 7th.
That poor other manager.
Now.
That poor other manager. Did you send
We
him
end
home?
up winning.
Did you send him home with the 12 pack?
Well, let me tell you something.
You should have.
We ended up winning by 4. And I pulled them down the right field line, and I said, if you're happy with this shit, you should have got your ass beat. You got lucky. Get on the bus.
been
We're going to drop this one. It's like a bad game. It's like a good game, bad game. You play so bad, but you shouldn't have won, and you end up going, okay, well, guess what? Let's drop this one, flush it, and we're going on the next one. Now, we got them again in sectionals in 2016. We beat their ass 14-0.
Wow.
So,
But I think what it is, and especially back going to the Madonna game, 10 runs in the 8th, is we had a couple errors. And then
That's where you got to throw the domino out.
Then guys start getting down,
Yep.
and then the other team starts getting a spark, feeling like they got some life.
Because you can't measure emotion in sports, man. You can feel
got
it when you're sitting at the
you
game.
know it.
You know it. Like
know
I
it.
remember when I was watching the second documentary they did on the Northside Carroll game we did, Jeff, when Steely put that hit on Tay. And we just kind of were like, wow, it was like Uncle Mo ran around back, dressed himself in blue and white, and started running around the track. I think that's the thing in sports, bro.
Yeah,
that's the beautiful
Jeff,
thing is the emotion and stuff.
Jeff talked about that. A couple errors, and man, it's just a snowball, and you're trying to stop it, and it's like it's your team against against the world, and
Yeah.
and everybody. And sometimes there's nothing you can say. It just happens.
And that's back to my oldest son's game. First 3 innings, he's 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3. Fourth inning, 1-2. Next pitch, pop fly to the third baseman out of foul territory, and he Dave Parkers it and drops it. My son, from that point, gave up 4 runs.
Yep.
And it's all because one kid got in his head
Oh,
and
yeah.
he forgot what he was doing.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of this book. You got to throw the domino out.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, man, I still like your idea of a prep school. Before we finish up with the interview, we're going to do rapid fire. Sonar's beautiful wife came up with a segment of rapid fire. We're going to kind of ask you some quick questions as we finish up. But I still like your idea of the prep school. I would love to be a
I'd
part
love
of
it.
that someday.
Wish we had time to talk about that.
I tell you what,
Fort Wayne needs
I would.
one.
I tell you what, with kind of what went on last year and with
With losing-
everything, I would love get a couple of business deals done. I would love to be a part, be on the board, and help financially put us prep school in this area.
With us losing Ivy Tech now, that we need a prep.
I tell you what, I'd love to have a prep school. Jeff talked often about it, about kids going to school maybe 8 to noon, getting those core classes, getting it done, getting a good meal at lunch. Then all of a sudden, maybe a quick little study table, make sure everybody took care of their work and all that. Maybe practice from 2:30 to 4:30, and as Jeff always said, then they're home at 5:30.
Absolutely.
I would. I tell you
Absolutely.
what. I think that's
Hey,
still an exciting.
that is a beautiful thing about foreign community schools going back to their regular times
Yes.
now of
Yes.
7:30 to 2:30. It makes all the sense in the world. I mean, you're done. I can remember those first couple of years that I coached there at Northrop, and it was, you practice from 2:45 to about 5 o'clock, and then you send them home. And it hurt when they went later because kids didn't necessarily come out for sports because some of them have to go get a job. Well, it's transportation or a job.
He had a couple players.
Yeah.
Jason Dorfler would have, it might be 8:30, 9 o'clock before he could leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
wait-
it makes all the sense in the world. I'm glad
Yeah,
they're going
yeah.
back to it.
Yeah, me too.
Let's do a little rapid fire as we finish up here with Jeff. Dave, you want to start? We're just going to ask you some different questions, Jeff.
Okay.
What's your favorite restaurant in the 260?
Ooh, favorite restaurant in the 260. I mean, I can't afford it anymore, but probably Club Soda.
Wow.
I hear you on that, man.
First I've heard that.
I also like Paula's.
Good call.
What's your favorite Mexican?
Oh, Arcos, but they shut their doors down. I don't even know where they're at. I heard they moved southwest. They were on DuPont.
They were supposed to. Yeah, that's a
Captain
bad
Cork.
story because Captain Cork bought that building.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arcos by far. They got the 3 hot sauces. You have to ask for it because it's not the one that you got.
Okay, I didn't
I want
know
the
that.
hot sauce.
You want the hot sauce?
Quit playing.
Quit playing. Speaking of hot sauce now,
playing hot
I didn't
sauce.
know that. Okay, here's something for you. What's something about you that people would be surprised to know?
Oh boy, I don't know, man. Probably not too much out there. Surprised about me?
Yeah, is there something you do that's odd
I've
or
learned a
something?
lot
you
tonight.
like?
Oh, okay. I like gardening. You know
There you
that,
go,
Joe.
man. I know you do.
I got a garden. I mean, my tomatoes right now are about 10 feet
10
high.
foot.
Yeah, I got a
When
trellis.
did you
The
start
water-
them in
don't-
February?
No, you can't. You know you can't do that,
No,
Dave.
inside.
Tell them about the
Dallas
water.
Ramsey
the-
used to start hitting
Yeah,
inside.
no,
The
that
aqua.
I can't do it in my neighborhood because we have a HOA. But
oh, look out! HOA means trouble. Sonar.
Yeah, it really does.
Run.
But I want
Run.
to dig 5 feet down and then get the tile laid and throw dirt on it and then get my greenhouse going to where I can have a greenhouse all year round. You know, get
I got
that
it.
that earth battery going
I got
to
a
heat
Amish
it.
neighbor that does that and grows lettuce.
You know what the key is? You have to have 2 layers of that Visqueen. You have to have air in between to help keep the cold out.
That's why I love knowledge, man. Just bring it, man.
I
That's
like
gardening.
You said lettuce or hippie
See,
lettuce?
who would have thought? Who would have thought, man? On the 260 tonight, we get a little lesson in gardening.
We-
man.
yeah,
I tell you
we
what,
got
pickleball,
Yeah,
gardening.
yeah.
Hey,
And cheeseburgers from Harbaugh.
Jake would let you know about it a little bit with that 4-H. What's that? What's,
I know. Our guy we used to the games with, Jake Smith, the great Jake Smith from Columbia City. We did a podcast one time, and Jake went off on 10 minutes on 4-H.
Oh, boy.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and,
It's a
and,
big
how-
deal out in
and,
Columbia
and,
City.
and the ability to
Auburn.
read your dirt and what you have in dirt. I wish I got to go back. We got to see if we have a
Is
had
it
the
called
tape of that.
4-H though in high school? Isn't it
I don't
called
know what it
something
is,
else?
but it was
No,
a
Carroll-
brilliant. He
Carroll
laid.
used
I
to be
never
the
heard
biggest
anybody
4-H
lay.
program in the state.
I never heard
But
anybody
now
lay
they've
down
lost.
dirt
Yeah.
like that, man. I never heard the adjectives and the adverbs and the descriptions with dirt, man. We
He
gotta
was
pull that
literally
out.
laying down dirt.
He was
You
literally
got
laying it
Carroll,
down.
Columbia City, Auburn,
Yep.
DeKalb. I mean, those
Yep.
are your big ones.
Yeah.
Woodland.
Yep.
If you could have a cup of coffee with anybody, past or present, who would it be?
Ooh, a cup of coffee, past or present. Probably Alex. To be honest with you, I can't really think of
The one and
anybody.
only Alex Jones.
I can't think of anybody from the
Infowars
past.
sonar. Look at you smiling over there, man. That's what I'm talking about. That's why we have Jeff
I mean,
Mahoney.
holy cow!
Oh, yeah.
laying down knowledge.
You know what? We might be able to make that happen someday.
I know.
I
I know. I
pull a
remember you
couple
saying
strings,
that.
and we might get a couple of plane tickets down
well,
to Austin.
who's the guy in Chicago?
He could use you.
Joe, who's your buddy in Chicago on the radio personality?
Barack Obama.
Talk about Man Cow. and all
Man
that.
Cow
Yeah.
Mahler.
Oh, man,
yeah.
Cal. Yeah.
I tell you a story about
You
Man
didn't
Cow
what I
one time.
said.
I got a great story. I know we're going long, so I apologize. I got a great story about Man Cow, right? So Man Cow's starting out, and my parents get the great idea. My stepfather and mom, they were going to have him on as the morning show. Okay, we had already screwed the pooch because we were
Bob
probably.
and
This is
Tom.
yeah. I'll mention this. Thanks, Dave. This is not a proud family moment. I can remember as a kid, we sat around the dinner table and we listened to the demo tape of Bob and Tom. Okay. And there we are eating our TV dinners. You know those TV dinners? We eat the Salisbury
Salisbury
steak.
steak.
Half the Salisbury steak's cooked, the other half still frozen.
And the brownie's bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's awful, and you're just like, my God. The only thing great about this is the corn. So we're sitting there eating our TV dinner, sonar,
It's got
right?
butter.
And here comes they said, well, we're going to listen to this demo tape. These are some guys. They think maybe they could make it or this or that. We listened to it, and I'm like, man, I think that's kind of dumb. And my stepfather listens to it, looks at my mother, and he says, yeah, we're not doing that. That will never make it.
Bob and Tom.
Oh, man. You talk about
Bad
that
family
hurts.
mistake.
So anyways, so that's the Bob and Tom story. So we actually missed out on the Bob and Tom.
those guys are
So-
hilarious.
I know. And then so anyways, Man Cow Muller comes along, right? And Man Cow is just vulgar, and I didn't really get into it. You know, my folks thought, well, you know what? My folks were the first to put on an alternative radio station in Indiana, 96.3. At the time was The Edge. Then we had to
remember that.
change
Yeah.
it to The Extreme. And a little story, I dug the trenches and built the station with
I
my
remember that.
stepfather and my grandfather. And I'll tell you, that was... one night we were digging trenches, and we'd already worked 18 hours. And I had blisters on my hands. And I was bitching, okay? I was tired out there digging trenches. My stepfather was ready to hook everything up. My grandfather was probably in his 70s. He was a World War II veteran. He's just going to keep working. My stepfather grabbed me, threw me to the side, and he says, you take a look at your grandfather Gaylord's work ethic, and don't you ever bleep forget it. You know what I mean? So I learned work ethic. But anyways, Man Cow Muller, we built the station. We put him on, right? He comes down, and he meets like the morning guy who's like, controlling the station, right? Controlling the board. Super Dave or whatever, right? So Super Dave and Man Cow, they're cool. Super Dave thinks he's cool with Man Cow, right? Comes to like the announcement of Man Cow with his wife. And Super Dave's wife was a big woman, okay? I mean, she's a big lady, okay?
A big one.
Nothing wrong with that. She was a big lady. So Super Dave, Man Cow, hanging out there having drinks. Everything's great. Oh, man, we're going to launch the show. Monday morning, it's on, man. Man Cow in Fort Wayne, right? And I remember telling my stepfather, I said, this will never fly in Indiana. This is going to be trouble, okay? This is a different place, okay? These people still like their ag shows, you know? So, anyways, Man Cow comes on the radio station, Jeff. The first day, and we're at home listening to it, right? 6 a.m. eating eggs. He does 2 minutes and goes off on Super Dave's wife. I mean, I'm talking like it was like it was extremely uncomfortable, and it was like we got to turn this. No, you're not going to turn that off. He goes off on Super Dave's wife so bad that about 5 minutes into it, Super Dave gets mad. This is the only time it's ever happened in the history of Clovis Communications. Super Dave gets pissed off and turns the transmitter off. Didn't put the board in queue or took us off sonar. Turned the transmitter off. Walked out of the station. We get out there, walked out of the station, told my stepfather that he could take his bleep station and stick it up his bleep. true story. So the first day that Mancow was on in Fort Wayne on 96.3, he destroyed the guy's wife, and the transmitter got turned off, man. Little Mancow Muller story. Okay.
Wow.
I digress. Let's continue on. What are you listening to right now? If you're bumping around, what kind of music do you listen to, or what are you enjoying right now?
Always the Chili Peppers. I've seen them live 12 times.
Chili Peppers, man.
Nice.
Yeah, so but I've got my Chili Peppers mix with Mumford and Sons and stuff like that.
Okay.
Last question. What are you watching on Netflix?
What am I watching on Netflix? I've got really a lot of go-to. I've been watching Cruel Summer lately.
Cruel Summer?
Yeah, I don't know if that's on Netflix, though.
What is it?
Cruel Summer. It's pretty cool. It kind of has like a poppy feel to it, like MTV. But they'll do a scene from, the summer, a scene from 3 months later, and then a scene from like 7 months after that. And they just keep rotating it, and it's just kind of cool to see how they progress. So I think this season 2, I'm waiting for the new episode.
Okay, as we finish up, I got one more for you. Jeff Mahoney, what was your greatest sports moment? Could be when you played ball, could have been a broadcast you did, could have been somebody you helped along the way.
Kobe.
Could be, when you lay your head down at night and you kind of think back to all the stuff you've done in your life. What's the greatest sports moment for Jeff Mahoney?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, probably going back to that city championship when we were 11 years old.
Unbelievable.
Roosevelt
Barnes, Walter Jordan talked about it. It's amazing.
We were
Little League Baseball, Sonar.
We were third place in Georgetown and ran it.
Wow.
Ran the city, and it meant something back then. I know now with travel ball and stuff like that, it's a little bit different, but even Elmhurst Little League was super good back then.
Yeah.
Times Corners
was good, man.
Yeah, Elmhurst, that would feed into Elmhurst and Wayne, and Times Corner would feed into Homestead, and then Georgetown was Snyder, and St. Joe was Northrop, and all that stuff. So Village Woods was Hardin. We'd go play Village Woods. So that's probably the. There's so many of them. I mean, sports
It's beautiful, man.
all day, every day, right?
Always goes back to the youth.
But I will say one thing, going back to your super conferences and stuff. So I would have said Ted Lasso, but I finished that up. Season 3, the last show was just amazing. But honestly, it's time. Like Division I needs to do like European soccer. They need to just take the top 36 teams and put them in, we'll just call it D1.
Yeah.
And then it should be fluctuating. So if you're a D1 program and you start being a stinker for 2 or 3 years, you move down,
You get
and then a
relegated.
Boise
Yeah.
State moves up and takes your
I see
spot.
exactly where you're going.
That's interesting.
Maybe we start with
I like
36.
that.
36
You like that, Brummy? That's
I
kind of
do
interesting.
because it makes you earn your
Competitive.
stride. It makes you earn your
and,
stripes.
and maybe we start
competition.
with 36 teams with the
Uh-huh.
12. So 1 out of every 3 makes the playoffs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we go from there. So you could have your Pac-5 and your Big 10-5.
I mean, it's never going back the same. I mean,
And
we know
Big,
that.
Big
so.
Ten's doing away with the divisions, but they're
Yes.
keeping the rivalries. So it's going to be a home and away for all the teams. But like an Ohio State and a Michigan will always play each
And
other.
that's the smart way to do it. Yeah.
And I saw something today. The Ohio State coach says we need to move the game from being last because there's a possibility we can play 3 weeks in a row.
He's crazy. You never move that game. I'm sorry. That's tradition.
Yeah. you just put it
I
out
know.
there.
We
worry
just
about-
said traditions are going away. That's a tradition that's always got to be
But
there.
what if you had a Midwest with Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State,
Wow.
maybe throw in a Louisville depending on how they're doing.
Yeah.
And then you had a West Coast with now a Colorado, which Coach Prime is my favorite coach in the
I know
country.
you love him, yeah.
And going back to NIL, the kids want to get paid. It should be incentive based. It should be based off how well you do, maybe
Sure.
per stat or whatnot. But these kids that are just getting thrown the kitchen sink before they ever play a game, where's the motivation?
Right.
Correct.
And so Coach Prime's 100% with that. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you could have some really cool divisions within that one super conference, which ultimately is just Division One.
It's been an honor, brother. Love you, man.
Yeah, it was fun talking with you
Summit
guys. Thanks for
City
having me on,
Sports, man.
Appreciate you coming on.
I tell you
Absolutely.
what, Dave, a name that will always be spoken with pride. Jeff Mahoney, and a group of people that have brought high school sports to your living room. A company always spoken with pride, Summit City Sports. And Sonar, I want to thank you.
Yeah,
Charlene, Denise for the outline again. Brumby, it's always an honor. Dave and Jeff, it was a pleasure to have you with us again.
Number 20 in the books.
20's in the book. And remember, a name spoken with pride, Jeff Mahoney of Summit City Sports. And we are the 260.
Appreciate it, Joe.
That was